Welcome back, everyone, to Enforcer and the Dude, Paul Morris, Russell Ingall, coming at you with episode 12. Is that a sign?
I think it is.
12? I think it is. We've got a packed show. You reckon our other episodes were long? You ain't seen nothing yet, I'll tell you what. We've got Bathurst review. We've got to get, man, get ready. You need a six-pack to get through this one, no doubt about it, but we're going to tear that apart. We got a great interview with Ryan Walkinshaw. We actually went down to Melbourne, went to his new conversion factory complex and sat down, had a pretty candid interview, and man, we didn't pull any punches on it too, so that's pretty cool, so stay tuned for that one. A lot of news and announcements as well that went over the Bathurst weekend and up until now as well, so we're going to review all of that. So stay tuned, strap in, man, this is going to be a big one. Hey dude.
I'm back.
You're back.
Had a big week, mate.
You've had a big week.
Yeah, I drove the truck down. That was pretty good fun.
Yeah, you did a bit of a road trip with Nash.
Yeah, it was good. Good to get on the road and see what Australia's all about still, and it was good fun.
It's a good trip over to Bathurst, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or down to Bathurst from Queensland.
Yeah, it's great, mate. Get out and see the real Australia.
Man, this is going to be a marathon. Hope you're hydrated, because
We've got a fridge.
Yeah, we got plenty to talk about. Man, Bathurst out of control, but we're going to get to that because we want to dissect it. So
yep.
Let's not mess around and don't waste any time because so many announcements have come out as well. So let's start from the top. I usually have one A4 paper. Check it out. We got it everywhere. Rightio, here we go. From Speak Cafe, our friends there always are on top of it. Cams reveals a rebrand for 2020. That came out over Bathurst weekend. Motorsport Australia.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, I think it's more about describing who they are. So, if you're going, for me, if I'm on the board of Cams, which is now Motorsport Australia, and I'm representing that, and I think that's a really cool thing to be on. If I go to a function and I go, hey, I'm on the board of Cams, people go, what's Cams? But if you go there and say, I'm the board of Motorsport Australia, that sounds pretty official.
Okay, so it's just
so
really
I think
the perception of the logo.
I think that's that. So this is a political move. It's about establishing Cams as the major authority of motorsport in Australia. And they're not. They're not actually Motorsport Australia. There's plenty of motorsport going on in Australia which they have nothing to do with. There's motorcycling, drag racing, speedway. There's actually other circuit racing providers for that service as well, but that's them positioning themselves with the government and official to be recognised. So,
you don't reckon it's a rebranding exercise to try and lift the image, which I reckon isn't that fantastic amongst their members, and I've been very vocal on that before.
Changing the name ain't going to change their relationship with their members. We pay way too much for our licences. Grassroots people get ignored. They're out of touch with what's going on at the track. Like, how could Eugene Rocker not even be at Bathurst?
Didn't know that. He wasn't even there.
Wasn't there, mate.
No, okay.
So, you know, this is not going to fix their problem with their members, but it will. We'll rebrand them, and it will.
But are they trying to get a fresher image and try and make it turn around a bit?
I think it's politically moved. You know, if I say Swimming Australia, do you know what it is?
Swimming, of course I do.
Yeah,
fair deal.
You know what I mean? If I say BMX Australia, you know what it is.
So it's not a negative. So
Motorcycling Australia, you know what it is.
Because it's expensive.
I think it's a good move politically.
When a company rebrands itself, it's expensive.
It's an expensive thing, but
websites.
I think it's hopefully
so it's the right thing to do.
That's probably the right thing to do, but it's not going to solve the problems with the membership.
No. So it looks nice.
It's not going to solve their problems with their organisation.
Yep. Okay. We're going to have to get someone on from Cams. Maybe Eugene or Tim Schenker would like to come on the show.
It'd be great to have him on.
Eugene
would be good to have on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd
No,
be
seriously,
really good to have on.
no, we're not taking the mickey with that. Like the invitation's out there. If you want to come on, come on. And it's not a smash-up session. It's just maybe something like this would be better for the branding than anything. So
cool.
Come on, invitation's open. So bring it on. Now, what did you think of so much? Like I said, so much has come out. GRM facing Supercars exit after sponsor ultimatum, meaning Peter Adderton, the Boost Mobile founder and sponsor of Gary Rogers Motorsport, has come out and has said, I will supply funding for all the uprights. So the uprights which we've banged on for ages, which should have been controlled out of the gate, should have been controlled years ago. Now they're saying it's going to get pushed out to 2021, 2022. He's saying, I'll fund it for all the teams. Pretty out there statement, but you know, if he's prepared to do it, what do you think? I would have taken it up.
Well,
Someone's going to buy me outright.
Fund it, but it's like Pete's the king of getting the headline. He's the headline king. So, and like I love Pete. I've known for a very long time, but he just loves throwing it in there and stirring the pot and seeing what pops out. He knows fairly knows that they're not going to respond to pressure from a sponsor. So he's grabbed some good headlines. Yeah,
I mean, Supercars have responded to that as well, saying, no, we won't be taking up that offer. Yeah. Now, is it more so that what Peter's saying is, I want to be involved in the sport. I want to be involved in Supercars, but if I come in and play, I want to play on a level playing field.
That's 100% what he's saying. So
everyone's taking this, and he's been smashed up a little bit on social media by the Warriors and that. But I think you've taken it out of context. He's saying
he wants a chance. He wants a chance to compete. Yeah. So,
and what's wrong with that?
Well,
if you're paying a couple of million bucks,
pretty realistic what the market will bear and what a company like his can afford to put into a race team in sponsorship. And that's not going to get any bigger. Maybe for the top end of town it might, who can do business to business deals and manipulate other deals around the sport. But he's a guy that's coming in and saying, I'm going to put my money down. That's sort of about what I can afford to put into it, and I want a return out of it, but I want to be competitive. So a good point, Russ. He's just highlighting to the fact that he needs to be able to have a chance to win some races.
And maybe more sponsors should do that, because at the end of the day, these are and we've said it all along, those sort of components, and they make a difference. It's just not a little bit. I mean, that's a component that would make a difference to being competitive, because you know, with geometry and the front ends of it, it's only part of it, but it's a reasonable chunk, isn't it?
Oh, it's a big part of the car. Look, I agree with him. There should be a control up. Like where it went wrong is the rear of the car's got a control upright. Why didn't they do the front? So we've covered this 100 times.
Yes. Yep. Now they're saying they're going to push it out though, and that's what annoys me.
It'll come with the new car. So
but it's so slow to react to this sort of thing, dude. There's no reason for it. With the facilities that's available in engineering.
I believe the control shocker's coming.
Yeah, well, that's what we spoke about as well.
Yeah, I think that one's coming. So,
and they using Super Shock, Australian firm.
Super Shock. That's the hot rumour. That deal's done.
So at least an Australian firm, money staying in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. The word on the street is that it's going to be branded around a Petters thing. So it's a marketing tool made by Super Shock, branded Petters. So there's that's happening.
It's a start though. They've got to do something.
But maybe they could have done the same thing, the upright, and branded it the Boost upright or something.
so easy. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't have blown it off that quickly, because if someone is preparing to fund it.
Well, I spoke to Pete in the weekend, and he got smashed by some of the teams over this, all the other teams over this.
Well, why? Why would you get smashed?
Because they all think that they've got a competitive advantage with their upright.
Oh, seriously, how often do they need to be smacked over the head with a piece of 4x2? And there's only 2 teams that got a competitive edge about uprights, and all the rest of Nowheresville.
Yeah, well, when your front axle costs you 50 grand for the upright and wishbones, it's pretty obvious that that's something that needs to be looked at, because it's a consumable item, mate.
Yeah.
You're going to whack a couple throughout. Like they're not like you put it in the car and You're not going to damage them.
And we went through that with the Mark
We've
car.
been through it.
You know, with the upright, and it's a tenth of the cost.
Yeah.
You know what it is, Paul? It's
Do you reckon he'll leave the sport? Do you reckon he's going to leave? Do you reckon Pete's out?
Well, there's rumours around the Sydney team, which we're about to get onto as well. I don't know. I reckon it's 50-50.
Be interesting to see what his next play is.
Yeah, I reckon it's 50-50.
There's something coming. There'll be another one come from him. He's always ahead of the game.
But you know what it is? You know what it is, dude? It's these team owners and principals and engineers, and they're all going, they're thinking they've got the latest tweak that's going to put them ahead of the field. Yeah, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. You know, just we only need this or that tweak or that upright, and we're going to be there. And it never eventuates. Then they get to the end of the year and go, oh. But, you know, I reckon there's one more shot in it. And that's what it is. Instead of just biting the bullet and going, no, look, it's lights out. Let's actually save some money. Let's get on a level playing field and let's just go racing.
Yeah.
You know, so I just wish they'd shine up a bit. Hey, I referred to the Sydney team announcement. James Courtney's been out peddling his wares, and he had a fair bit to do with all this, and he's a used car salesman. I still hear it's not a... Is it a done deal?
Well, I think it's done as far as Webbs are concerned.
Yep, okay.
Rod Salmon's in there somewhere, like Rod's.
So Rod's an ex-GT3 racer?
GT3, he got upset with, or disenchanted with cams and disenchanted with GT3, started his own GT1 championship that runs under AASA sanctioning.
Oh, okay, right.
So he runs that GT1 championship.
Yep.
He was the guy that was going to have his own TCR championship, then couldn't get cars.
Yep.
So he's a guy that does put his money where his mouth is.
Okay.
But I haven't seen anything from Rod. There's no.
No. Okay.
There's no official communication from Rod Salmon what he's doing about this.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I'm thinking, okay, there's stuff from Webb, there's stuff from Courtney, and they're saying Rod's involved, but
because when you
he hasn't publicly said he's involved
well,
yet.
you take it all, and it's you know they're talking a $33 million input from the New South Wales government.
Yeah, that's been around for a while. So
yep. So this is nothing new.
No, this has been circulating for about 10 years.
Okay.
2 years.
Yep.
All to do with the government and the spend at Sydney Motorsport Park. CAMS are tied up with their Centre for Excellence.
Yep.
So they're going to have a Centre for Excellence. They're going to have to learn to be excellent so they can work out what to do with it.
So that's the angle, is a training ground for as well.
Yeah, they'll train their officials there and I don't know what they're going to do with it. But
there's some is saying that there's speculation around that other teams have looked into it and they say it's not viable. They say it's not viable to be in Sydney. So that's why no one's actually grabbed the money before. So what's the difference going to be here then?
Well, I think there's two things going for it. That you got Webbs that are Sydney based.
Yep.
Big players in the property industry down there.
Yeah, okay.
You got Rod Salmon that's Sydney based, so if he's in, you got Courtney that's from that area.
Yep. Supercars have been pushing
emotionally attached to that area.
Yep.
Do they want to try and create something in their hometown and make it cool? If you've got the want and the right people to do it, I think you can do it. Probably a little bit like Furniture Row Racing in NASCAR were based out of Denver and they won a championship.
Yeah.
They were the only guys that weren't in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, yeah, they can make it happen for sure.
888 cars, that's what made me laugh a little bit. So they're saying, they want a Sydney-based team and it's all about Sydney and everything. Yet they're buying a couple of Queensland-built cars that are manufactured in Queensland. So that's where the money's going. They're not building it in Sydney.
Well, maybe they plan to later, but they've got to get the thing going. And the most sensible thing is Webby already has a relationship with 888 and knows those systems. So take one variable out, stick with the cars you know, and get the thing rocking. All
right, so it's still going to be a tough ask though, because you know it's not like Techno have really struggled the last couple of years, so they know how hard it is to be a satellite team. It's not an easy gig, so there's no reasoning that all of a sudden they're going to come out the gate firing. I mean, it's still going to be hard work.
Yeah, but I just look at James's performance on the weekend. The way he drove that car.
Yeah.
He was driving like he wanted to win that race, and he didn't care what happened. So if they can make him fire and get the right people around him, I reckon he's on.
Still might not be too bad. Second driver hasn't been announced for that one. So
young bloke,
TBA.
they're saying.
Yeah. A young bloke payer or a young bloke?
Someone's going to have to fund it somewhere, so whether it's going to be someone with some money or someone that's connected to the money. Rod Salmon is a big fan of Will Brown's. Okay. He has supported him before in GT racing. He's been around Will for a while.
Yep.
So...
Well, I hope it goes that way. I hope it goes to someone that deserves the drive, a young guy that deserves the drive, and not a payer. Because if it's all about development and Sydney and going forward, put a young guy in there. You've got an established driver, put a young guy in there, and it's not about money. If the government's paying $33 million, they can afford a driver. So
let's find out. Let's ask the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I hope. If they put a payer in, that's not off to a good start. So.
Oh, well, if we put a payer in, we'll smash them.
Yep, done. So
they're not serious if they do, are they?
All right, we're going to start venturing towards Bathurst town, and just a comment that came out of it too, because again, things that we've always said on this show about aero, and that because of the hot rodding of their homologation over the years, and we asked the two people here with Roland and the Doc, you know, and they pretty well, without saying it, said, yeah, we've explored every grey area in homologation. Aero's crept up as much as 30%. So we've ended up with more downforce. More downforce. Will Davis has come out and said, across the top of the mountain, in his quote, it's nearly like a GT3 car over the top. And that's not what you want. No, so looking at it on the weekend, the actual lines change, so they're turning in a lot later. They're only lifting where they used to brake. So the cars are a lot faster across the top of the mountain. None of the drivers are really enjoying it. It's taken a bit of the skill out of driving the cars. And you saw we never had any passes on circuit all weekend. Yeah. So up to about lap 100, there was nothing. Was there? There was nothing, but you just couldn't pass anyone. So it had to be pitch strategy, which is probably why the car 12 thing played out so drastically, because track position is everything at the moment because of the aero. So that's where the pressures come from. Yeah, it's not what you want. They got to pull the aero off the car. Well, they said they're doing it. I know, but what, this or this? I reckon we're going to have a big cut, and if they can get together and everyone get this going at the start of next year, that's what we need. So let's face it, every Fred was doing a 4 or a low 5, just a Fred. You know, and to do... there's no Freds out there, mate. Come on. There's a couple of Freds out there. In co-driver land. But that's what I'm saying. Even co-drivers are doing 5s. So you can sort of look at it. They're too easy to drive. If you're doing a 5 round, they're too easy to drive. I don't think the car's easy to drive, but it's... if you're brave and can hang on, you'll do the lap time. Yeah. But you're a lot braver if you haven't got aero. Well, I don't know. Aero scares me. Yeah, but it's interesting though, and it's equated to everything that we've said on this show has translated to that, because, you know, to do a 3.3, and all credit to Scott McLaughlin for doing that, but even still, that is GT3 times. Yeah, and everyone down there didn't like it. The talk through most of the team owners and the drivers up and down the pit lane next, and it's what Davo's saying is it's not what we want. Shane Van Gisbergen you want to be able to hustle the car. He picked it, didn't it, before? You want to be able to get up underneath someone. You want to be able to apply pressure. Yep. And that's what we've got to do. Let's get it happening. You ready? Yep. You ready? Bathurst. Right. I reckon there's a couple before we get into the doom and gloom. Okay. All right. There's no doom and gloom, but not for us. There was a couple of outstanding driving performances there on the weekend. Perfect. Yep. And then the guy that super impressed me, which is Bryce Forward. Okay, current leader of the Super 2. Current leader in the Super 2 championship. Yeah. Absolutely been dominating that championship this year. Yep. Come to the Enduros and did an absolutely superb job. He won the Super 2 race, and his co-driving stints were faultless, and his lap times were there. So we spoke about who can move up from Super 2 and is that system working, and 100% it's working. It was impressive, wasn't it? Yeah. Hey, if I was a team owner and looking at his performance on the weekend and what he did,
I'd be knocking on his door.
I think it was a few of the one of the only co-drivers didn't put a foot wrong.
Didn't put a foot wrong. His lap times were faultless. So well done, Bryce.
Yeah,
it was good.
Absolutely.
And obviously Scotty and Premat's performance. So I just want to brush on that before we pull this apart.
No, absolutely.
Because
that's what it's all about. It's all about.
We've got to pull it apart, but you can't knock Scotty, can you? He's just the driver of the car.
Not at all. And I said it last year when he did that incredible shootout time. For someone to go out and put everything on the line, just go out there and go, I'm going to have a fair stab at this, even though I've got a 6-hour race coming up, biggest race of the year. I'm going to throw it all on the line to do a lap time. I reckon that's big kahunas just doing that alone, and then pull out the time that he did. I mean, man, that's pretty impressive.
No, well, his performance was faultless all weekend, so deserved winner of the race. But we've got to go through the controversy. But
yeah, no,
whatever happens, there should be no shine taken off Car 17's performance and the way it was driven by both drivers.
Absolutely not at all. And I was, I know on our sort of preview show to Bathurst, I was a little bit harsh on Prema because I thought, well, not harsh, I just thought because he wasn't racing all year, could have been rusty.
We said there was a question mark over
it. It was, but geez, he proved us wrong. So
he did.
Sorry, Alex. So you
proved
us wrong. Yeah. So we always admit when we're wrong. So unlike others. So so he did an absolutely excellent job. Came out, and it blew me out how cool he was. And cool. And you know how I tell in the driver changes. Driver changes with something. He just jumps in, and he just sat there like, drive off we go. So cool. So his mindset was already in a good zone. Like he wasn't, oh geez, it's just very cool. So a bloody good job. And those two and that 17 car deserve to win.
Yeah, there's no way that trophy should be taken off those guys. So let's just clear that one up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're 100% on that. We are 100%. So there's not even a debate in that at all. So anything else stand out? Not wanting to cast a negative. Crowd numbers all right? Because I'm only going on comments.
The crowd was good.
Was it good? I just had a lot of comments saying that from punters that were there saying it seemed a bit down.
But, the crowd were definitely there. The town was buzzing, and one thing I did notice, there was a lot more younger people there.
Okay, different crowd?
Different crowd. They're definitely getting a bit of... There was a lot of younger people, like between the ages of 25, 30, in the town, hanging out, enjoying it. It had a bit of a festival vibe,
Yeah.
It was
just looked like there's a couple of gaps in the hills that it doesn't usually have, but might have been a bit less campers this year or something.
No, the campsites are all sold out. So,
they're all good. So.
Yep. Lots of enforcement of dude fans.
I know. I went up on Tuesday to do the livery launch of the Silver Bullet. And we went up the top of the mountain. This was on Tuesday. It was out of control. Really good though. Had a good time up there and spent a couple of hours signing everything from heads to feet to shirts and everything else in between. So I still got it, mate. It was actually pretty cool. Hard walking away from it and watching it on TV, but anyway, that's...
How'd you go with that?
Yeah, funny,
Yeah, I didn't like it. Yeah, I stayed at home once and I hated it.
Yeah, I probably should have hung around. Yeah, but
I was thinking about. I gave you a call there one night during the week. You didn't come back to me. I thought, oh, maybe he's doing it tough.
I was sort of thinking. I was getting itchy a bit about, I sort of started mowing the lawns and doing all that sort of stuff, and sort of going, I was almost jumped back on a burner. I thought, well, look, anyway, maybe next year. Maybe next year we'll go up and have a look.
Yeah, it was good. You got to try it.
Well, I do a wild card. Let's do a wild card.
We should, mate. We're too old. If we're going to do a wild
not if they take aero. If they take aero off.
Oh no, we can get back into that.
Take aero off. We're back in. We'll do a wild card. Do it in the Enforcer car.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Let's go.
Right, let's go. Right. This is so complex and so much into it. So the first thing we've got to do, we've got to review the situation because we've got to get it in everyone's mind, refresh it, what we're talking about, and talk through. So I've got a couple of outtakes here of both the incident itself, along with the transcript from the radio call as well. So we've got to watch better. So first of all, let's see the actual incident of how it pretty well all unfolded.
This is the car 12.
Yeah. So this is Alex Rossi in the sand trap. Right, this is what kicked it all off. Now, at this stage...
Oh, just stop that.
Huh?
So that's Fabian in the background there
Yeah, let's go a little
There
bit
he is.
further. There. So at that stage, from the timing that I saw, is 1.6 seconds.
Yep.
Right. So Fabian to back to Wingcup. So he's pretty well there.
Jaime.
There's Heimgartner, and
Yep.
we should give him an honourable mention, even though he got caught up at the
He
end.
did. No, good
Andre
point.
Heimgartner put in a bloody good show, and we've been saying all along he's been one of the standouts. Him
Yeah.
and Nick Percat this year. That was a bloody good effort too. Right. So we carry on. So it's Tim Schenken.
Yep.
Safety car out, right? So everyone's jumped into action, right? We're going to pit. They'll be all working out now. What's going to happen? Are we going to pit? Are we going to pit? So that they're all on, right? Over
Where's
Skyline
Fabian?
already. So this is between the cutting
And
Hang on,
and
we'll
Skyline.
pause it. Yeah.
And it's clear to everyone where the incident is, right?
Correct. Yeah. So at this stage, they're coming down.
Yep.
Where is he? I mean, he's not even. They're coming down in a Forest Elbow. Commentators already saying, where is he? Not even there. So I reckon there's probably a good 10 seconds overall
Yep.
between the cutting and Forest Elbow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Which
pretty massive. So
if you didn't know where the incident was, you might.
you would have backed out of it pretty well.
Yeah.
So here we go. We got on. So here we go.
So Scapey said they backed them all up. He's trying to minimise the double stack.
Exactly right. So look at that. So you're saying 30 seconds, bang, there he is coming around there. That'd almost be into the chase by now, right? So this is where it's all kicked off. So he's pulled the pin pretty hard. Hasn't been a little bit.
No, it's extreme, Russell.
I mean, commentators were saying it's going to be trouble. Everyone's picked it. I mean, if you're all these guys, what would you be thinking? What would you be thinking? You'd be going,
you're blowing up,
what's
mate.
going on?
You're blowing up.
Here you go. Yeah, radios, communications going over. So there'd be everyone bloke. Okay, so there's Wingcup and Scott McLaughlin in there, nose to toe, as they were. So they've pressed on the whole way. They haven't backed off.
Yep.
And later on we'll show you communication from the 17 engineer or who's on the radio to Scott McLaughlin saying, press on, do not slow down. So one's saying to slow down, one's saying to press on. And same with Jamie Wingcup as well. So they haven't been given instructions to back out of it, have they?
No.
In they come. Normal tyre changes, fueling up, ready to go. Remembering they've still got a fair stint to go, still debatable whether they would have got going or got back without another stop.
Yeah,
Got to the
you're
end
3
of the
laps
race.
short on fuel.
Yeah, as it turns out, a couple more pace cars, they would have got there.
Oh, without them, no one's making it.
So they're still guessing. They're still guessing at this stage where they're going to. So they're out. They're gone. Pit stop's done.
But just hold it there, mate. Right there.
Yeah.
Look at all these cars here.
Yep.
They're lappers trying to get their laps back.
Okay.
So what do you got? Simona.
Yep.
I think that's the BJR car.
Yep.
Webby.
Yep. So they're trying to unlap themselves.
Well, they're trying to unlap themselves, and that's hasn't, because they've been held up, they haven't been able to.
Yeah, because they got held up in the train. So they didn't pit, did they?
They didn't pit. They stayed out to get their laps back.
Of course, it's a really good point. Yeah.
So to say that it hasn't affected anyone, that would be my biggest thing about that. Like, I've come to the race. I'm doing my race. I've somehow gone a lap down. I've put myself in a
really
position with getting fuel and to capitalise on a safety car and get my lap back and get back in the game. You've just told all those blokes that we don't care about you.
Because you're over. They've been held up for over 40 seconds.
40 seconds. They're gone and got their lap back.
So
mate.
they would have almost been to the top of the mountain.
Yep. Caught the train.
Back
come back
around.
in, filled up. They would have been last cars on the lead lap, but they've got their lap back.
Got their lap back.
They're back in the game.
And still plenty of racing to going on.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're Nick Percat,
yep,
you've just told him that I don't care about you.
Yeah.
You're irrelevant to me, mate.
Yeah, because everyone's talking about the guys that missed out in the pit lane. You're right. It's these guys that were trying to get a lap back. Chaz Mostert would have been one too.
He would have been back on.
He would have been back on with the pace that he had. He was still in the game.
Could have still won the race, mate. So no one's worrying about those guys, but they've got a right to race their race.
Of course they have.
Yep.
And the difference is, you know, finishing in a decent position. They could have finished. In the top 12.
Who knows what that is? 161 laps, mate.
Yeah. So there they are. So the other cars are gone. There's Fabian just pulled in now.
Yeah.
Bang. Okay. So
that's an important one, I think, because that's part of the.
Yeah, there is. Now, this is a radio chat. So this is a transcript I took off online, right?
Yeah.
So this is all the radio chat and obviously subtitled as well. So very plain, very simple, and this is obviously what they're basing a lot of the investigations on into. That's right.
Debris.
What's debris?
Debris is debris on the track. Be cautious. Hold that there.
Yep.
I think we stay out, mate. That's Shane's radio.
Yep.
So he's going to stay out.
So okay. So he's saying, yeah, Fabian. So Shane was going to stay out
on the track.
Yeah.
Because he had fuel in hand.
Yeah.
And they would have had a bet each way, like 888.
So he would have tried and gone.
He would have bolted.
Yeah.
On low fuel and bolted, tried to get a lead, come in, get fuel, and go again, and they would leave. They would. 888 always have a tortoise in a hare.
Yeah.
But because of this, he can't.
Right.
He's forced to pit now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right. Well, let's carry on with the conversation. So everyone's blowing up.
Yeah,
all these cars would be blowing up deluxe on the radio.
I don't know where the incident is. I don't know where the incident is. I don't know where the incident is.
Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? So that's the car 12 radio, right? Saying, I don't know where the incident is. Copy, I'll just say, okay, I can't see it either.
Yeah.
Right. Now, as opposed to, I've seen radio communication of the 17 car, right?
Press on.
Prior to this, where before they came in for their pit stop, they said press on to the 17 car, right?
Yeah.
From whoever's on the radio to the 17, right?
Right.
So one engineer who's sitting here is saying press on. We know where the problem is. You're clear, press on.
Yeah, one's flat out.
Yeah. The engineer sitting right next to him is going.
Thinks the world's going to end.
Yeah, we don't know where it is.
Yeah.
We don't know where the accident is.
There's debris on the track.
There's debris on the track. That's what's putting doubts in my mind. I'm sort of going, whoa, hang on. Am I there?
Well, it's just a stitch up, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it just doesn't seem right.
Slow down. It's 340. I think it's on the mountain somewhere. Slow down.
I think it's on the mountain somewhere. It happened on the last turn, right in front of you. So that was.
The damage is done there now.
Damage is done. Okay, so that's pretty interesting sort of footage. I mean, there's no debate over that. We've heard all the radio chat, all right? One engineer for the 12 car is saying, we don't know where the accident is, which, and we've seen telemetry on plenty of times before. Well, when we were here debating the New Zealand.
The broadcast pictures show you where the incident is.
Well,
exactly. The commentators know where the incident is, and the teams do.
Of course. So I'm pretty sure they knew where the incident was.
Yeah.
To say we don't know where it was, of course they do. They've got monitors that set up alongside all the telemetry as well. So one engineer saying we don't know where it is, the other one saying press on, we know where it is, you're clear. So it's just not balancing up.
No. Okay.
Okay. But that's for the inquiry that's going on at present to sort out, and they'll be looking at this. I believe they have further radio communication that happened earlier on in the lap as well.
Right.
That's probably doesn't go in favour of the 12 as well. So we've seen it all. Fans have seen it all. Right. Where do we stand with it? I mean, there's two things here, right? And what they're saying is, allegedly, it might be a team-driven thing, a pre-arranged team-driven scenario, or if it wasn't that, the driver has done it himself or taken upon himself to do it.
Well, Fabian's already come out and said, I haven't done that. I'm just doing what the team's told me to do.
Okay.
So
that was his own quote?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm being smashed up. I just did what I was told to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Which backs, when you look at what we just saw, he's responding to what he's told to do.
Correct. So
but one thing that doesn't hold water with me, mate, for one very good reason. Because if you come out of the Forest Elbow,
yep, and
you looked and saw there was no one in front of you and the 2 leaders had bolted,
yep,
you would get back on the radio and go, what's going on, mate? I've got a clear track in front of me.
Yep.
I'm screwing over everyone behind me. You sure you guys have got it right? You would question that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It was very structured, and it surprised me. Like if allegedly it was a team-driven thing, well, I suppose as depending on what situation
I'm not
you're
copping
at.
his argument that he was just doing what he's told. Even if he was doing what he's told, and he's come around the corner and seen that.
Would you have done it?
Hey?
Would you have done it if you were instructed to do that? Would you have done it in that scenario? Propped it up like that?
No, not that much. Would have I milked it a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would have I gone, what can I get away with? Would have I just been a bit careful over the top of the mountain, come down the straight, maybe fumbled into the pit lane a bit and got myself a bit of time?
Yep.
I think we all would have done that.
Yeah,
and people
correct.
still do that. But
yes.
But to blatantly do that,
yep.
And if he's saying he's just being told what he's told to do, he's got to question the instruction. When you come around the corner and see that the whole straight's in front of you and you've got the whole field stacked up behind you going like that, you would jump on the radio and go, "Hey guys, you sure this is correct?
Yeah.
We're in the right thing. I need to get going here."
By the time we got in pit lane, it was 47 seconds.
Yeah.
So you went from 1.6 seconds behind the 17 car to 47 seconds.
No, he can't just say that it's nothing to do with me. I'm just being told what I've got to do. Mate,
that's a huge amount.
If you're flying an aeroplane and you see another airplane coming for you and air traffic control says just hold the flight level, you don't just drive into the airplane. You go, "Hey, you sure you guys got this thing right?"
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Own it. They need to own it.
Yeah. It's going to. It's a shame though. It's a shame all this overshadowed Scott McLaughlin's win.
Well, we've covered that off, so we'll reiterate again. But
yeah, but I mean, it's and by no means are we saying that Scott shouldn't have won it. But let's look at. Okay, so that's all still going through at the moment. Investigation going into it.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see what the outcome is. The byproduct of that is the people that it affected. You've and rightly so, and I didn't even think about it, the lap cars and all those guys
the
down
lappers
the
is
back
me because I'm a bit of an underdog, you know. I've been down a lap there plenty of times and fought my way back and got an alternative strategy going by doing different things. And from what I can gather, and we've had a look at this, I think Reynolds was in a good spot, James Courtney was in a good spot. To be a shorter pit stop time, and those guys would have come out in front of.
Yep. Well, we haven't taken a wild stab at this. We've been ringing around. We've been on the blower and phoning as many insiders as we can about this too. By the way, so it is our opinion on some things, but it's also what others that we trust has given us the right information. I spoke to Barry Ryan about this, and he's been very vocal about his displeasure with the whole scenario, and by their calculations that they said Scott would have dropped out probably between, if everything was normal and there was no alleged hold up on the track, that he would have Scott McLaughlin would have come out between position 5 to 7, somewhere between there, depending on this is surmising what happens in pit lane, and there was no dramas with anyone. If Shane Van Gisbergen stayed out, that's what they indicated.
Well, he said it. I think Shippy's saying, I think we're staying out.
Well, then he would have been the leader.
He would have been the leader.
James Courtney would have been second, and Davey Reynolds would have been third.
I think you're right.
At the start of the race.
Yep.
So if Scott McLaughlin, okay, let's paint a bit of a picture here. Scott McLaughlin's between 5 to 7. Give him benefit of the doubt, he was 5th. Do you think any of those guys, Shane Van Gisbergen, James Courtney for sure, and even Davey Reynolds too, are going to make it the widest, hardest car around that 6 kilometre track to get past? There was no way they would let them past in a dogfight, would they? No,
you're going to race and you're going to do whatever you can to hold that position, but there was still more laps to play out.
Yeah, for sure, but it would have been, she would have been on.
Yeah, but to say that it didn't alter what was happening, the two lead cars would have still been in front, is not right.
Yep. Yeah, so it had a massive effect.
It's had a big effect.
Had a massive effect. Hence why I think there's a lot more teams blowing up in the background than came out. Barry Ryan came out publicly, but there'd be plenty going on in the background. So they're looking into it. They're saying the Thursday before the Gold Coast 600 race, which why aren't they looking into this earlier?
Well, here's the thing for me, is we've just had the biggest race in Australia, and we don't know the result. Can you imagine playing the grand final, or AFL grand final, or the rugby league grand final, and going, oh, we're not going to show you the result till we meet on the Gold Coast in 2 weeks?
You can't do it. Such a bad look.
It's not a bad look, and I think team orders are allowed under our rules. It's just who can give them. So if you go back to 2006 when Rick Kelly won the championship, you had Garth running blocker, you had 4 Holdens in there running block trying to stop Lowndesy winning it, and a rule got put in that team orders weren't. You could have team orders, but you can't have outside influence. You can't have manufacturers or sponsoring trying to influence the result. So I'm not sure the stewards have actually got the right rule that they've charging the team with, because I think team orders are allowed. But there are other rules in the International Sporting Code which takes precedence over our
under
FIA rule book.
And Bathurst runs under FIA.
We're an international series by the FIA, so the International Sporting Code takes precedent over this. And if you look at, remember the Renault gate at Singapore Grand Prix when they deliberately crashed the car. So there's a rule there in the FIA Sporting Code that basically says the stewards have got the power to exclude them. I've got the rule here. Do you want me to have a read of it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So they can actually.
So this is the power of the stewards. It's saying may disqualify from any one competition, or for the duration of the event, any competitor or driver whom they consider, or is reported to them by the clerk of the course or by the organising committee, which would be Supercars, as being ineligible to take part, or whom they consider as being guilty of improper conduct or unfair practice.
That's pretty broad.
That's pretty broad. So that's an all-encompassing rule that's in the FIA International Sporting Code.
Right.
That's in there and going, if you're playing up, we've got something to grab you by.
Okay.
So if I'm DJR Team Penske, I do not want to be going into a stewards hearing with that hanging over my head.
Because that's what it's about now. It's about now what is going to happen to the team.
Well, it says there they can be excluded.
Yeah.
The team.
The whole team.
The whole team.
Which means potentially the win.
It's on the line. It's on the line. Somehow they've got to try and get together and get something sorted out before you get into a stewards hearing. So what happens when you normally get charged? You go and sit down, you speak to the deputy race director, and he'll go, mate, we think you've been a bad boy. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the recommended penalty. Right. You can take that now, or you can go to the stewards.
Yep.
So you look at it and go, well, I think I've done the wrong thing, I'll take that now. Or if you think you've been hard done by, you can go to the stewards. So there's a way of getting a deal done here to get this sorted out.
Do you think a deal will be done before the hearing date of the GCC? Because I reckon they've got to get this over and done with as early as possible.
Supercars need to somehow sort this out, because we look stupid.
Yep.
I don't think CAMS have charged them with the right breach of the rules.
Okay.
Even Fabian's drive-through penalty wasn't a breach of the rules. It was the 5 car length rule, which determines when you're.
Oh, okay, right.
Right, you've got to maintain 5 car lengths. But if you're 20 seconds behind the car in front when the yellow comes out, how can you maintain?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think the stewards have actually grabbed the right rule or charged them with the right rule. Looking at the footage, they know something's up. Give them a bit of time. They're smart guys. They're going to go around and have a look. I'm sure there's plenty of teams feeding them information.
So what do you think? Do you reckon they'll take a plea deal?
You've got to get that done, because there's another rule I found too, which is in the International Sporting Code.
Yep.
This is to do code of driving conduct on circuits. It's Rule 2E. It is not permitted to drive any car unnecessarily slowly, erratically, or in a manner deemed potentially dangerous to other drivers at any time. So there's 3 things. The first one's unnecessary slowly. So obviously that's to do with car 12. So that one's on car 12, and there's another one on the team.
Is there? I thought there was a rule in here to stop you, that in the supercar regulations, saying that you can't impede cars.
Unnecessarily impede cars, yeah, there is.
So is that one as well, or that's just in the supercars regulations?
It's in the supercars regulations, but this
does that apply here? Because
it will first.
FIA,
so it's the International Sporting Code. It's our rule book, and then if it doesn't refer to our rule book, it'll go to back to the CAMS.
Do you reckon they're going to have a swing at this?
Who?
Everyone. Supercars, CAMS, FIA.
I think there'll be that much pressure from the teams to do something, because it's very clear that it affected a lot of people's results. It was a manipulation of the race result in a big way.
Because that's one of the comments that Barry Ryan came out, I think, in his comments about it. It's almost opened the floodgate, if nothing gets done about it, that you just put a sacrificial car in there and buy yourself a win, because you could...
Yeah, Barry's pretty emotional about it, and he would be, because he thought he had a chance to get back up and get a result. But he's got a good point.
That if you got enough money, you could do that. Put a car in there that's, could help you along the way.
Yeah, well...
Produce a safety car at the right time or whatever.
Well, back in the day, that's what they used to do, didn't you? You could swap cars.
Yeah.
When you'd enter in both cars, drive one like hell, and everyone would chase it and brake, then jump in the other one that's still going good.
So they're going to make an example, is what you're saying, because especially as far as DJ Penske are concerned, there's a perception that maybe they've got a little bit easy through the homologation and the aero, and because they want them all back in, and so I think if they don't do anything about this, the public perception's not going to be
people aren't really understanding it, and I think it's a pretty big deal. I'm trying to put myself in Ryan Story's shoes. What would I do if faced with this thing?
Yep.
I don't think they deliberately tried to create that big a gap. Yep. Obviously, they had a preset plan to deal with double stacking, so they could milk a bit of time. But somehow between the hatching of the plan and the execution of the plan, it's gone wrong. They wanted 20 seconds, and they've ended up with. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think it's a deliberate.
You only have to listen to the transcript of the radio chat.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, that's where it's come unravelled. Is that it's quite easy and simple. They're telling one car to press on. They know where the incident is. They press on, get back to the pits, and they're selling the other car. We don't know where the accident is. We don't know that there may be issues or debris on the track. Slow down.
Yeah.
So and they're in the same team.
Yeah,
that's where they come.
It doesn't hold water.
No.
So you've just got to come out and own it and go, right, we've done the wrong thing.
Yep.
We've tried to be a bit clever, but we've tripped ourselves up. how do I get out of this, and how does Scotty keep his win?
Yep. Which he deserves.
Which he deserves to have. He's the guy driving the car. He's done all the stuff. He's done all the right thing. He deserves to have it. So it's
yep. It's a tough one.
I would not want to be going to the stewards.
No.
No.
No, because maximum is...
And you can't make up a story, mate.
That's massive fine and exclusion
you
from the whole
can't invent
event.
a story and try and patch that thing and cover it up, because it's pretty plain to see what went on there.
They got too much audio, too much vision. They know everything. They monitor every radio. They monitor everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So the stewards have got access to everything.
The one and then when the engineers said race control haven't told us where the accident is, that's just like, well, it's already been on TV.
Yeah, yeah. But that's unusual too, though.
Yeah,
they always say.
I don't like that for other reason too, because after what happened at New Zealand.
Yep.
The race control and the way that race was run was outstanding. So I was monitoring race control all through the race to see what they was doing, and Dave Stewart and Tim Schenken and their team did a fantastic job.
Yeah, you said this to me after.
Like, it was pretty clear
because you were monitoring their radios.
It was pretty clear that they'd stepped up their game.
Yep.
Had a pretty good debrief. Made some adjustments to how they were running the race, and did a ripper job. Like, it was pretty clear what was going on.
Yep.
Their recoveries from the accidents were fantastic.
Yep.
So to say that race control haven't told us what they're going on, they won't like that.
And to be fair to them as well, that I got information at the drivers' briefing as well at Bathurst.
They did.
That Tim Schenken and Dave Stewart said, we believe that we could have done a better job in New Zealand.
Yep.
And that we've reviewed procedures, and we're going to move forward and do a better job. So didn't come out and say they made a mistake, but still came out and said, yeah, we can do a better job.
And they did do a better job.
They did do a better
job.
But
if I'm Cams, or I'm Tim Schenken, or I'm working for Cams, and I see that audio where it says race control haven't told us where the accident is,
you're not going to be happy.
You've just made a pretty good rod for your back, mate. They're going to be loaded guns.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for the good of the sport, I hope, and for the race, and for Scotty McLaughlin, who deserves a bit better than this, that they do bring all this forward and get it out of the way, get it done, get the decision made, and press on, and not have that taint flow over into the Gold Coast race. So
I'm with you, mate.
It's a big deal. It's a real shame, because it was a killer end to the race, and it's a shame it had to come out that way. And on another note as well, and something we really encourage with this show as well, and luckily enough that our fan base here, which is growing enormously, is that there's so many constructive and respectful comments that come through. And unfortunately, out of all this, I do hear that from someone that's close to Fabian, that he's getting smashed up really bad.
Yep.
Really bad, which is unfortunate, and I hate that sort of thing. And I can understand the passion of the moment and all the rest of it, and it's sport, and sporting people get passionate.
He's just got to turn off.
Yeah, but don't do that. I mean, there's no need for it. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter whose fault it was, whether it was or wasn't or whatever, at the end of the day, you don't go making, pretty severe threats to someone like that. I've had it before, I've had it plenty of times, mate. And it's, I'm pretty thick-skinned. I've got crocodile skin, mate. But but at the end of the day, you don't need that sort of crap. So I wish people would back off on that sort of stuff. And like I said, that's why we always encourage on the show not to do that sort of shit on the show.
Don't smash them up.
No, take it for what it is, and wait for the outcome as well too. So.
Wait for the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. Now, that's it. I think we've covered Bathurst off pretty well, as much as we want. Oh, look, just a quick one too. Kelly Racing also came out. Mustangs.
Yeah.
Good and bad. They're going to hand 2 franchises back by the sounds of it. Only going to run 2 cars.
Well, I think there's a bit of a sale going on.
Yeah. So it's a shame because obviously staff. There'll be a down, a bit of a culling of stuff. But saying that, at least they're still in the game, because I was talking to Todd quite a while back, and they were debating whether to close the doors. So at least they're staying in the game. They found a way out.
Which shows why they were pretty gun-ho at getting the TCR program and the other things going up. They obviously want to keep their guys employed.
Yeah. So that might be all right for them in any case.
2 Mustangs, your drivers probably be Jaime and Rick.
Be mad if they got rid of Heimgartner. Absolutely mad. So keep him, Rick, good combo, good cars. as long as they can get their engine deal sorted.
Engines, what do you do for that?
I'd be having a sniff around. I reckon there's a couple of guys, one in particular, that had a bit to do with DJR engines over the years, and I know it had a little bit to do with Walkinshaw. I'd be headhunting him pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I reckon
that'll be an important
it's
part
manageable.
of it.
You got a couple of Ford engines kicking around?
I've got a couple of good Ford engines.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to lease them out.
Oh, I don't think I could do that, mate.
No?
No, they're pretty good.
Oh, they're pretty good. You want to keep them in the shed?
I do.
All right. Hey, rightio. Now, our grassroots, we haven't done one for a while because we've sort of been out and about a bit and travelling down to Melbourne and doing interviews and all sorts of stuff. So we haven't done a grassroots section for a while. So again, going on requests that we've got through the show was TA2.
A lot of TA2 stuff, haven't we?
A lot of TA2, yeah, going through and a growing category. You know, it's up near 30 cars at the moment. And so who better to get than Glenn and Aaron Seton? Aaron Seton's currently leading the championship.
Yep, he is.
And the legend Glenn Seton himself, who spanned us on the things, asked them if they could bring one down. So they said, yeah, we'll get one down. So I'm going to go out and have a look. I'm flying solo on this one, dude.
I've got to unpack the truck.
You've had a hard weekend. You only just jumped out driving back from Bathurst in the truck. So you take it easy.
Right.
Have a coffee and I'll go out and have a spin around this. So come and check this out. We'll get out and see what TA2 is all about. Hey guys. Here's a legend and a legend in the making.
How you going? Fantastic
How are you going?
part. It's been really, really good.
Thanks for coming down.
Oh, absolute pleasure.
Been meaning to catch up with you for a while as well. We've had a few requests on the show to see what Glenn Seton has been up to.
People will still remember me.
You're missing in action, they say. Where is Glenn Seton, for sure? But Aaron, thanks for coming down, because another thing that's been most requested on Enforcer and the Dude is about the TA2s. Fantastic category. I mean, hasn't it just exploded, number one? Number two is they're a great category to watch, and very timely because you're leading the championship with one round to go as well. So want to go through it basically. So are you liking it?
Yeah, definitely. It's been an awesome category. Firstly for my development too, and it's really gaining some momentum now with 40 cars in Australia. So, no, it's been a pretty cool thing, and yeah, they're an awesome car to drive. Yeah.
And what about technically, Glenn? Because I know you're a tech head.
Yeah, I am a bit.
You're a tech head. You like the mechanical side of
Absolutely.
it. I know this would be like a touring car used to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty well. It's actually technically really sound. The way the Yanks have built these things is very robust, very strong, very economical to run, and very low maintenance, to be honest. And because they're all very much the same, it's all very much a controlled component throughout the cars.
Right.
You can't do a lot, but you can do enough to just make that little bit more speed out of them. But no, it's what I suppose development series in Australia should be is this style of race car, because they're so economical and they're still very enjoyable to drive, and not only that, a great development formula for young guys like Aaron.
Now take us. Let's start from the inception of this. So this is an American formula.
That's
is that right? So
exactly.
they race this throughout America?
That's right, and also some of the countries in Europe, they also race them as well.
Okay, right.
So they're pretty popular. In the States, they're very, very big.
Yep.
And
same spec. Same spec as this.
Same. A little bit different in America in a couple of areas, depending what model you run. So in different states of America. So they have, in the Fords they have Ford engines, and the Chevs they have Chev engines. This one here is a controlled formula where you just have one LS3 engine in them. So which is fantastic. And the Yanks are even saying, mate, stay with that formula you got in Australia, because that's much better than what we got here in America.
Which is multiple engines.
That's right,
America.
because and the disparity of trying to make parity between a Ford and a Holden. One's a 5 litre, one's a 6 litre.
They say parity, mate. They say parity in Australia.
Luckily, with this category in Australia, the way the formula is, it shouldn't have to be a parity problem, because they're all even.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, let's get into it, because our viewers really want to see the mechanics behind this. So let's start off right with the front here.
Yep.
Firstly, I've got to say, how's the look of it? I mean, it looks like a Mustang.
Absolutely. I reckon they look fat. They look really fat, and they're really wide track. Naturally gives you much better handling, but they're all the same. You've got the same track on every car.
Okay.
You've got the same front end in every car.
Right.
You got in Australia, you've got the same engine in every car, same gearbox, which is controlled ratios, all sealed. The engines are sealed.
Yep.
And the same in the diff in the back. They've all got the same, which is a quick change diff. It's actually better than what we've had in Australia in the past.
Okay.
We've actually just 2 little gears out the back, same as sprint car. Just to change the ratios.
Oh,
it takes,
just pull the back off.
Yep. Just takes you 10 minutes, and you got the next ratio in for the next run.
Is there some air aero at the front, Aaron?
Yeah,
Can
definitely.
you feel it?
Definitely. They've got an under tray which we've tried a few different things, and it's been pretty awesome. Just noticing all the different changes that the front end makes to the car, and the front under tray almost goes back to the front wheels, and it's very critical in the handling of these things.
But not enough to affect it. What's it like when you're behind other cars? Because that's a big complaint about supercars at the moment. With so much aero on them that you get behind someone and you can't pass because you lose the front.
No, definitely.
So,
these are good to follow cars.
Right up behind
myself and George and all the guys out there in the category have had some pretty good battles, and you can get right up close, and it doesn't really affect you too much.
The difference is, Russell, with the under tray on these, it's actually a flat under tray, so it gains that little tiny bit of downforce, but nothing like a supercar does, where the tunnels actually sucks it down to the road.
So.
On a supercar, for example, you're probably generating about 150 pounds of downforce. This would be battling to be 50 pounds of downforce. So you've just got that little bit to actually just make the front that little bit nicer than having lift in the front. So it's just one of those tools that your ride height still makes a little difference, because you do have that.
Let's pull the lid off and have a look underneath, because this is the interesting part about it, and we've discussed this on previous shows about going to a control engine. This is it.
This is a control engine.
This is a control.
Exactly right.
So this is an LS3?
It's LS3, so it's a 6.2. Actually a Chevy engine in a Ford, which is. But I tell you what, that's been fantastic. Everything is controlled in these cars.
Right.
So right down to the shock absorbers, right down to you've got to use the same top arm that they come with, and all the components for them are so cheap because they're built in America. Like an upright, like you spend less than $1,000 on an upright. Where
$1,000 for an upright?
Less than $1,000.
So this would have the same size tyre as a supercar, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Same width as a supercar. Naturally, they're an old style tyre. These are what they call an old style cross ply tyre, which is what we ran. You would remember cross plies back in the old 80s and things like that.
I came in after that, thank Cross.
So these they're a little bit low grip, and they're very easy to burn out pretty quick. But so that teaches the driver also to manage tyre life and things like that. But they're very cheap, like they're $250 a tyre. So when you go racing and you put 4 tyres on, it's only $1,000 to go racing with a set of tyres for the weekend. And when they're new, they're very, very good. So the speed that they put out is only a couple of seconds slower than a supercar.
Is that right?
Yeah, in qualifying.
So you notice a grip when you got new tyres on.
Definitely.
You still got that 1 or 2 lap grip.
Definitely. They've got these sorts of tyres they're the best on the first flying lap, and then they sort of drop off a little bit for the next and sort of hold consistency. So no, they're a very good tyre, and you definitely got to look after the rears during a race.
Because that's important for the whole driver development thing of learning how to qualify and knowing you've only got 1 or 2 laps.
Absolutely.
So it covers that off as well.
Absolutely,
which is a good part of it.
I've got to say that's been fantastic for Aaron's racing to be able to learn that part of it, because most of the time in most categories, your first flying lap's your fastest if you actually got
yourself. You're one of the masters of the 1 lap. You were good at qualifying.
Yeah, not too bad.
I mean, and when you got that grip level and utilising
Absolutely.
I can't get over the component prices though. And again, we keep harping on about control, and there's a lot of controversy at the moment within supercars about control uprights and dampers and that sort of thing. This has already got all that.
That's exactly right.
Imagine if you're a team owner in supercars at the moment, and you're paying out what you are at the moment, ridiculous amounts, $50,000 for a set of uprights and wishbones, compared to this.
That's exactly right.
Which one would you rather be running?
You know what, at the end of the day, if everyone's got the same widget, what's it matter?
Exactly.
So if it's a $1,000 component and everyone's got the same, if that, like in supercars, naturally they move the top and bottom pins in positions to get different feel and a different grip in the front. But if everyone's in the same position, does it matter? So this is the
punter
good thing.
in the crowd doesn't know.
Absolutely. And it'll put on better racing because everyone will be a little bit more equal, which is what happens with this class. And also, naturally, the cream will always rise to the top. Good drivers will always rise to the top. And this category, when you know that you're racing equally amongst everybody else with the same components, you know you've got a fair chance of being at the top.
And now everything is sealed, engine, gearbox and diff. Is that correct?
Diffs aren't, because you're allowed to change ratios anyway, so they don't really need to seal the diffs. But every other component, as in the engine, the gearbox, are all sealed. You'll see seals all around the engine, even to the inlet manifolds, even sealed and everything. So, and also they've got a controlled ECU in them. They can consistently change them to make sure that no one's fudging with them. So they've got everything controlled on the cars, which is fantastic.
Okay, one of the biggest things, because it's a controlled engine, is life. What sort of life do you get out of these things?
This one's been unbelievably fantastic. We've actually only just put a new engine in it, and the only reason we put a new engine in it, not that we had a problem, is because Aaron's leading a championship with 2 rounds to go, and we didn't want to have an engine failure in any way. So they've been getting anywhere between 5 to 10,000 Ks on them.
Wow.
So for this car, this has been done 3.5 years of racing, and we've only just put an engine in it.
No way.
Absolutely.
Is that right? And how many rounds in the championship?
We've had 6 rounds this year and last year. So, and also next year, this category goes with the ARG group, Australian Racing Group.
TCR and
that's right. So it should be it'll be great
1,000.
for this category profile-wise because they've got really good numbers now. And, just to give you an example, the last round we went to, we had 29 cars. So
is that right?
That
29.
was at Eastern Creek 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
So cost for an engine?
Cost for an engine's around 20,000. That's including GST.
That's cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cheap racing, isn't it?
Absolutely. When you think you've only got to spend, well, this engine's the new updated version, which they all are now, which is just a bit better piston in them. That's the only thing that were failing him in the past. So these are now got a forged piston in them. So this will probably do the next 4 years of racing before you'll replace it.
And panel-wise, so all pretty well composite sort of panels.
Yeah, this body here is actually carbon fibre. This is the Mustang body.
Yep.
The Dodge has a fiberglass one because it came first as the car, so they made them in glass.
Okay.
And then the Camaro and the Mustang are all carbon fibre. So they're all done in America. You've got to use the panels that come from 5-Star in America, which make these things. So yeah, it's all a common source, which is great.
So we flow down to the This is one thing I like. See this out, the little barn door. This is pretty cool. Barn door we'll call it, just for easy access because obviously the window is pretty small. So Aaron, this is your office. So what have we got here? Gearbox wise is a...
it's a 4-speed.
4-speed?
G-force gearbox, so basically what runs in a NASCAR now, and yeah, they've been very reliable. It's done pretty much the same life as the engine, so it's been going for 3.5 years, and we've had no dramas. And no, it's a pretty cool thing.
And what about shifting up? Is it like a supercar where you can just pull it through, or you have to clutch, or how does the changes going up?
No, so it's similar to how a Formula Ford is, where it's a 4-speed gearbox, and you just got to slightly lift the throttle just to pull it through. Just to get it through, yep. And yeah, it's pretty good system, and just using the clutches on the down changes.
Yeah, right. And pretty simple sort of layout. You've still got obviously a Motec style dash, we'll call it. I know it's a different make, but at least all that is relative to what you use in a supercar or anything else as well. So,
yeah, definitely.
Data. Now, the big thing. Have you got data on the car?
Yes, we have.
You do?
Yeah.
A simple version or?
A very simple version. All you've got is your engine parameters.
Okay.
You've got wheel speed.
Yep.
And you've got RPM. And water temperature, like engine parameters is water temperature, oil temperature, but you've got no suspension data, no nothing. So you've only got being able to lay over from one driver to the other is just a speed trace or an RPM trace. That's all you can do.
We stripped down one of Paul's Formula Fords here, and we said nowadays it's just that kids don't learn how to set up a car mechanically without the aid of all, you know, like you said, suspension, telemetry and all the rest of it, because engineers do it.
That's right.
So they're setting the car up, not the driver.
That's right.
That's why I think categories like this, Formula Ford and this, the driver has to learn about it.
That's exactly right. You know? This is heavily involved in driver feedback.
Right.
An engineer can't come along and without just looking, there's all they can look at is a speed trace and go, yep, you're going 10 k's an hour faster in that corner with that change.
Yeah.
But you can't ascertain anything else but that. So it's great in that way. It's a great development for the people that are driving them to be able to learn about feel of the car, what changes are happening, and giving the feedback to their crew. That's really the way they're racing, which is old school, which is great. Fantastic.
You've got to learn the basics. Got to learn the basics. The Larry Perkins philosophy of going racing. Learn about the mechanics of the car, then everything else comes after that. All right, so we flow through to the back of the car. Not a huge wing on the back. Does it work? Does it produce some downforce?
Definitely. So through the last round at Eastern Creek is the best example. Obviously it has quite high effective through turn one. You definitely feel the effects of a small wing change, and it keeps the back nice and stable.
Right. And then going back to the rear of the car, so like you see, you've got a quick change rear end in the back of it.
Absolutely, which really it just makes it so simple, because if you think about the supercar days, we had a different diff ratio set up in every nose. And to change them over, it can be anything between half an hour to 45 minutes. This is just 2 gears straight at the back. The rear hat just comes off the back of the diff, and you just change 2 gears the same as you do in a sprint car or any of those speedway type cars.
And that's it.
It's just so simple and so easy.
Yeah, and it's a controlled damper that you can rebuild.
Yeah, so
I believe.
the damper is a controlled Penske, so you
Yep.
can't change anything but the valving inside. So
Okay.
all you can do is just change the shimming inside to make the bump a bit more or a bit less, or the rebound a bit more or a bit less.
There's still a bit of adjustability with that side of it. So teaching you about dampers
Definitely.
as well, and the feel of dampers and what it does and all the rest of it. So,
Absolutely.
and okay, let's get down to the nuts and bolts, because we've seen the mechanics, we've seen the
Sure.
car itself. Looks perfect, looks great on paper. Rightio, everyone's going to say, how much do these cost to run?
Well, to run?
So initial outlay.
Yeah.
Initial outlay.
Initial outlay is around the 150,000
Yep.
to actually buy the car. And that's complete turnkey, ready to go racing.
Spares?
You get some spare wheels of it, as far as I know,
Yep, yep.
and a couple of diff ratios,
Okay, right.
and some springs. So in the category in controlled, you're allowed. There's a few different versions of springs you're allowed, but
Okay.
they're the only ones you can run. So you can't
Right.
just go and keep throwing springs at the car.
Yep, yep.
To run a weekend, on average, if you're doing the existing series now, it's probably between $5,000 and $6,000 to run the weekend.
Wow, okay.
Because you've got four
That's pretty cool, yeah.
tyres. Well, most rounds we've only got 2 tyres, so we've only got to
yeah.
put $500 worth of tyres. But some of the rounds we also allowed 4 because
Right.
some of the tracks are a bit harder on tyres.
Okay.
So by the time you travel and accommodation, you'd be under $10,000 for the weekend,
That's
which is
cheap racing.
Absolutely.
People are spending that on go-karts nowadays.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, if you want to get into the category and get into something, and you've come out of karts and you're looking for an avenue to go, and with the demise of Formula 4, which turned out not so well,
Yeah.
you know, you look at something like this and you want to go into saloon car racing.
Absolutely.
Why would you look past this?
Definitely.
Well,
Why would you look past it?
naturally, we've both been in motorsport for a lot of years and seen a lot of categories come and go, and naturally I have too, being through the supercars and also like Group C days I started back in the early days to Group A's and then supercars. And what I've seen here as a concept, as a category, is exactly what motorsport needed in Australia for
Couldn't agree more.
young guys like this, but not only young guys like this, the older guys that just want to go and have a bit of fun and have racing without spending a stupid amount of money and being something that's really cost effective to use and also to keep maintaining. You don't have to have the best engineers in the world and the best mechanics in the world to maintain, to go racing with that, which is exactly what we need.
And as it goes on as well, there's no reason why you can't split it up, because like you said, you get your gentleman races and you get your serious racers trying to make a career.
Absolutely.
There's no reason you can have 2 classes within the class.
It's exactly right.
Because this has got potential, he's going to have 40 cars on the grid.
That's right.
So you can cater for both.
Yeah, that's right. And they have that now in our category with this, is they have the over 50s and under 50s. So there's a trophy for the over 50s guys.
Jesus,
you
might have to settle up.
But when we start racing them, I don't make it to over 60s. You'll make that, but I won't.
Oh, thanks, mate.
But no,
they
it's
did call you the baby face assassin. You've never changed.
No.
But you know the good thing I like? You can stick them in one of these things.
Absolutely.
A trailer. You can go back to the good old trailer racing. You know,
Exactly
you don't
right.
need fancy Pantex and transporters. You can stick it on an open trailer if you wanted to,
That's exactly
but
right.
let's just throw it on the back of a ute and you go racing.
I'll tell you what, there's so many in the category. Like I say, there's 29 at Eastern Creek the last round, and I'd say 25 of them are on trailers.
Is that right?
Yep. So
that's proper.
When you look at the trailer that we carry it all around in, it's very simple. Ramps open up the back, push the car in, go racing. And it's fantastic with
So you've
Aaron
got a family, for a family.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're learning something, and it's relative.
Absolutely.
It's relative.
And I've got to say, there's so many in the category at the moment that they're actually a father and son going racing.
Is that right?
So the father's doing all the work and the son's actually driving the cars. So like you say, it's the family thing. It's this category's great for as well.
So the big question is now, should I get in and have a steer?
Absolutely.
You reckon I should?
Yeah.
All right,
Smoke
we
it
better
up.
do that. Smoke it up. All right, let me grab my lead and we'll get going.
Sounds good.
Cool, all right.
You imagine telling that.
This is my first laps in a TA2 car. I've been hanging out to do this for a while. Everyone reckons they're pretty good fun, so we're about to find out. 4-speed gearbox, back to the old H pattern. We like the H pattern. Takes me back to the old Larry days. Far out. It's got a bit of grunt. Jeez. Hang on to it. Hang on to it, buddy. Jesus. They've got a bit of grunt, you know. Man, it's got some grunt. It actually surprises me. It's got a hell of a lot of grunt considering it's a crate engine. The steering is very, very positive. The brakes, as you expect, you know, like they're a little bit doughy on the, a bit like a NASCAR I should imagine would be like. It's got a very tall first gear. They're a hell of a lot of fun. Actually, the brakes are pretty good on it. I'll take that back. They're actually not too bad. Better take it back before I run out of talent. Hey, a big thanks to Craig Harris, who's the car owner of this, who've brought it out here today and let me have a bit of a steer. Bloody good. Really, really, I can see the attraction of this. I can see big things for the old TA2. Fantastic. Hey dude, that was, they're good toys, aren't they?
Yeah, how'd you go with the H pattern?
Yeah,
It's been a while.
Felt like I was back in a Larry car again, you know, with 2 less gears.
Left-hand drive.
Left-hand drive, really
Right
good.
hand.
Got a bit of grunt. They feel actually a bit light and nimble, you know. Nearly got away from me a couple of
I've had
times.
to drive a one before out at QR. I enjoyed it.
It was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's good fun.
And good leanings, like a Formula 4 to the roof.
Yeah.
So it's all right. Now, Glenn, couldn't let you get away without having a little bit of a chat,
Thanks,
especially
Russ.
with a few things that happened around Bathurst.
Yeah.
And I know, well, Bathurst was a special race for you. Fair bit of heartache too over the years.
One of them you took from me.
I remember one. I remember one in particular, '95. Yeah. How gut wrenching was it? I know you must have been asked 1,000 times, you know, about '95 Bathurst, but you know, since we've seen all the emotions from the weekend, man, that was one. That was a big one. Oh,
there's no doubt about that, and it was probably more so for us as a family and the race team that it was 30 years since my father won Bathurst, which was 1965 he won. I was born in 1965, so I was 30 years old. I was car number 30. And also the Bathurst City Council actually put up an incentive with Channel 7 of $30,000 on top of the prize money. So to get that close within 9 laps and to get that close of winning that event and to be sitting on the side of the track with just a valve spring broken, to be honest. That was it. Well, the problem was with it, it not only broke the valve spring, but once it broke the valve spring, then it naturally dropped the valve and then knocked the cam belt off as well, or broke the cam belt at the same time. So you just had no motor at all. So you couldn't even keep driving it to be able to get somewhere. But yeah, it was just that whole years of trying there and then getting so close and not quite achieving the goal, for sure. Isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Punishing job.
And that's
You
probably
just see it,
why.
don't you?
Yeah.
One person walks out, 2 guys walk out happy, and the rest are disappointed. And you go, why am I doing this? And then
But that one, I think that one sticks in every race fan's mind as the real soul destroyer because it was so close. You almost tasted it, like.
Yeah, I suppose it's that way. But God, there's been so many that have been so close for a lot of people, and just haven't pulled it together for that event. But I suppose I look back on it. Yeah, if you looked at it based on being bitter about it, it'd be very difficult. But I look at it based on, I've been lucky to be able to have the opportunity to go up there as many times as I have. I've stood on the podium quite a few times. Hasn't been number 1, but it's been 2 or 3. And to have that opportunity and throughout my racing career is a great honour, and I look at it that way, to the positives out of it.
Yeah. Well, you had plenty of championships next year,
Yeah.
Through a real good period.
Yeah, we did, and I enjoy those. They were quite hard work, because naturally at the end of the day you're doing 10 rounds back then, I think it was, of the championship, 8 to 10 rounds.
Yeah.
So you've sort of got to have it together every weekend for that one. But Bathurst is one of those events that it's just all on one day, but God, it's a hard event to win. There's no doubt about that. And Larry
it's easy to lose than win, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Larry did such a great job of it over the years that he was there, and you drove with him, and you know how his background is with his engineering and that, and he put so much into that, and to see him just recently on your show in the background of, that was fantastic to see. Because naturally he was a very hard,
character.
He was a hard competitor of ours against each other. But I'd really admire what he's done throughout his motorsport career, not only in touring cars or supercars or whatever, but
F1.
F1, right.
Hard but fair.
Absolutely.
Do you reckon he would have backed the field up?
Yeah, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. Hey, can I just ask you though, because going on the Larry thing, Larry was all, and he said it was all about Bathurst championship. He used to say, always said to me, he said, I didn't even know where you were in the championship. You know, were you the other way? Were you more championship focused than Bathurst?
Not really. I sort of focused on both, because we were there as a team to try and win races as much as you can and win championships, and also Bathurst. I wouldn't say that, but I don't know why it never come together for Bathurst. We did everything we thought was right, but naturally we didn't have it quite together enough when you look back on it. But the other thing I like about Larry's approach was so cost effective of everything he did, and that's probably where the sport has changed a hell of a lot in the last really 10 to 20 years. It's just got out of people's reach now, where he's been that guy that's just done it on a shoestring and done it well on a shoestring, and I admire him for that, for sure.
The cost has changed a lot. We talk about it all the time on the show, don't we, Dude, compared to those years.
Yeah, I think when Glenn came into it, in that era, you aspired to not be a driver, but own your own team.
Exactly right, Paul. And not only that, you could put a car together and go to Bathurst. You can't do that now, because you've got to have a franchise. You go blah 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 blah. Yeah. So you had the opportunity.
We saw Kostecki's try. Yeah. And they built that car themselves and took it to Bathurst and that. But man, it's not what you think. They're working on it themselves, but they're buying a lot of parts off a lot of people and spending a lot of money.
Exactly right. The industry has changed massively. There's no doubt about that.
Glad to be out of it?
I'm definitely glad to be out of it as a team owner. I've had enough as a driver, there's no doubt. I've enjoyed my time in the sport. I was very lucky, had opportunities throughout my early part of my career. Gave me the opportunity to, as Paul said, we're all been ambitious of wanting to own our own race team, and I got the opportunity to do that, run my own race team, engineer my own race cars. I learnt so much in all those years of being able to do that myself, change things on the car, drive it and go, yep, done that, and then you learn so much as you go. So I definitely are very happy for the period that I've come through in motorsport, to be able to have that opportunity, because you don't have that now, because you can't own a team now and be competitive and drive at the same time and engineer your race car. You couldn't do that today. So
big difference in that.
I'm really, really appreciative of the era that I've come through, for sure.
Because you were saloon cars all the way through, weren't you?
Yeah.
Or often we go.
Yeah, I had an opportunity. I drove a open wheeler for a couple of rounds, which was a Formula 2 back in the 80s. And that idea was to actually go and race a Group C car in Japan with Nissan, because I was driving for Nissan at the time. So I did a couple of rounds in that, and I really enjoyed it. It was just reminded me of my kart days. And you could sort of rag it a bit more and have a go, which you know from open wheelers. But once, I suppose, because my family's always been sedan car orientated with my dad coming through, and also the safety of sedan cars. I just saw it with a roof over it. Was sort of the direction to go in, and because my dad at the time was racing Ford Capris in Group C, that really sent me in that direction of being a touring car driver. And also, the culture in Australia is to be a professional race driver was sedan cars, so that's the main reason I head in that direction for sure.
Has been, dude. For some reason, open wheelers never, apart from Formula Ford, it's never really taken.
5,000 back in the day, and there was a bit of that, but it's where the manufacturers spent the money, and look, you would have had some great support over Ford over the years.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have had a race team without them.
That's right.
What was the best era? Well, out of all of it, because you went through
some...
the smoke. Yeah, they were having to spend up the era of the smoke money.
I would say for us, definitely the start of supercars from '93 through to '97. They were the years that I really enjoyed the sport. We had a lot of success in those years, and I look back on it and go, wow, it was great to be a part of the sport in that time. The start of the formula of the V8s, the popularity of it, the growth of it, and then basically 97 on is when Tony Cochran came in and really vamped the sport, and it was great to be a part of all that start of the real big, what we've got now.
Okay, yeah. So how evil was the turbo eras, like the Sierras in particular?
Yeah, they were actually quite enjoyable to drive, but they weren't in one way, because they had so much power, which is exhilarating, and to hang on to them was quite a handful. But when you got a lap right in those things, and particularly at Bathurst, they're actually quite good because you got momentum, and momentum circuits are quite good. Phillip Island, Bathurst. It's when you got to Winton's, a place like that, where you've got 150 horsepower off turbo, but once you comes on boost, you got 600. They were pretty hard to handle when you only had a tyre was not much bigger than what comes out on a road car today, as in a little tyre. So,
no power steer.
No power steer, exactly right. No real aero.
There's no power steering on that?
No, they never came out with power steering. We just we manned up back
15s or something in the Sierras when they first came out?
Yeah, I think in the end, I think a 12 was a quick lap at Bathurst in a Sierra in the end. I think DJ did a 12 in the last year of qualifying there.
It's not bad, is it?
It's pretty good for something that really didn't have a lot of aero. They had a little wing on the, they had a wing on the back to give it downforce, but had nothing on the front. So you couldn't carry corner speed. You had little tyres. Geez, they used to go on a straight line. But it was a good part to be a part of. They're expensive cars though, when I look back on it, because getting the engines reliable in them, because at the end of the day, they were 2-litre Pinto engine with a decent head on them. That's what they were. So they weren't really strong back when they were normally aspirated, never alone being turboed. So keeping them reliable was expensive, but besides for that, they were quite a good car. So
going back to the V8 formula, which just would have been a breath of fresh air, wouldn't
absolutely. I'll never forget the opportunity when we were still running Sierras at the time when we built our first Falcon, and the first time we ever ran it was Phillip Island in 1992 for a test. And we took both cars down there, and I went out in the Sierra first and went, yep, it feels like the same Sierra that I drove here last time. And then first opportunity to drop into the Falcon that same day, I could not believe the grip difference, just because you had aero then, you had a wing on the back and you had an under tray under the front, and just the delivery of power with a normally aspirated engine. And I thought, this is fantastic. I'm really going to look forward to this formula. And luckily, we started early. That was our advantage. Early in 93 on, we started very early building the new Falcon, and that was a real asset for us. And we came out with a pretty competitive car and team.
Certainly were. Especially, did you like the mixed tyre when it was open tyre?
Yeah, because what you could do then, you could have a steer tyre on a drive tyre. That's when I enjoyed the sport, because you could. We did a lot of development with Bridgestone with steer tyre and drive tyre, and that's where the advantage was. There's no doubt that once you go to a common tyre front and rear, it's very difficult to get a rear drive tyre to steer, as you would have known throughout the time you've raced. So then you had to start to tune the car to be loose in the rear to make the things turn. And I've always been a driver that likes to be really firm grip in the rear to get confidence. And once the sort of that style of tyre went away, it was definitely harder.
Will that ever come back, you reckon, dude? Open tyres? Just to attract tyre manufacturers?
Yeah, there was money in it, for sure. Like, I think, like, we had a Yokohama deal, you had Bridgestones, you had Dunlops, and the problem was that you could never win on a Yokohama. And a Dunlop was good at some tracks. And a Bridgestone was pretty good everywhere.
Right.
So
the control tyre thing's a great thing for the sport.
It gave everyone a chance.
It's just a shame when you just lost that, because it was always just as big a battle within the tyre companies than there was in the manufacturers. You know, so it's cool to have those companies involved. It's a shame that we can't still do that somehow.
Well, you probably could. Maybe you need to have them all involved and just you're all running on this weekend and you're on that tyre next weekend.
Or pick your tyre and that's it.
That's right.
You know, you nominate.
Different era. Tyre wars were good.
Tyre wars were real good.
Yeah.
Now we've got to get your opinion, because you know, as an independent now, you saw the little goings on Sunday at Bathurst towards the end of the race. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I suppose you're talking about the holding back,
the little holding
under
back
the safety car.
Alleged.
Well, if that was the situation that was going on and that was correct, that was happening, that's not right for the sport. There's no doubt about that. To be able to know the circumstances exactly of why they were holding back, I really don't know what it was. But yeah, when you start to see distances like that, you've got to start to question them. There's no doubt about that.
You'd never see that back in the earlier. Did you ever see it back in the early days?
No, well, I've never seen it very much at all.
I suppose you never really had.
Been involved,
well, you had it at Bathurst. I mean,
yeah,
had plenty of Bathurst. I've never seen it to that extent.
Like what do you do in the future to solve that problem? Is the only way I see it is you close pit lane. And then that won't happen. But
when do you open it?
That's right.
Because if you close, like NASCAR closed pit lane, but they still open it under yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
IndyCar closed pit lane, but then they open it up after everyone's formed up, and so you still get to pit under yellow. But with us only having one boom, you need a crew for every car to make that work. Yeah. And if you can't pit under yellow, everyone's going to fire in at the earliest possible time so they don't get rolled over. It's not that simple. But you could have, like, what do you need to find 20 seconds? You could find 20 seconds there without making it look like you completely took the piss. You could milk a little bit and trip over yourself coming in pit lane, or just run right on the grass a bit. You know, you could.
There's always bits.
You could milk a little bit, which people have done. We've seen people do that in the past. We've seen Red Bull do that in the past a couple of years ago. Be a bit slow coming in. So.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about was obviously because Aaron's, you know, and we just experienced that with Aaron taking us through a tour through the TA2. How do you find it, the difference now between, you know, when you came into it as a young guy, you know, compared to now? Is it harder? Is there more opportunities? Is there less opportunities? More paths, less paths?
I think there's the opportunities. Even when I was running early days, it wasn't that easy, but it wasn't nothing like it is now. And back in them days, I didn't have to take a checkbook along to pay for a drive or come along with a heap of money. That's where it's more like that today. You've got to spend so much money to get the profile or the experience and all that stuff. That's where the killer is. It's not so much that how good a driver is, it's more that how much distance or how much racing you can do to get the experience, to be able to get the opportunity to be able to get in these cars. And when you look at it, everyone wants to be a supercar professional race driver in this country if they want to go racing. And there's only, like at the moment, there's only 24 spots when you think of there's, I don't know, 22 or 23 million people in Australia. So it's a pretty small opportunity to try and get there. Naturally, I'd like to see Aaron to be able to have the opportunity, and that's his aim and goal, but to trying to get to that level it's almost impossible to do. What sort of steps do you take? Like at the end of the day, you take your Super 3, then you go Super 2, and then you go hopefully main game. It's still like a poker machine. It's still, at the end of the day, you're still pulling the handle, putting money in, and hoping that you pull the jackpot.
Millions of dollars.
That's right. And you're hoping that you pull the jackpot. So it is gambling to a degree of trying to get up there in the main game.
And Aaron's done. I mean, he's done 86s.
That's right.
Now the TA2. Yeah. I mean, the good thing about it, he's jumping into anything with four wheels, and I suppose that's all you can do.
Well, that's what we've tried to do is because we're limited in funds, is all you can do is put Aaron across different styles of racing, even right down to Speedway. We're running mod lights there for one stage to give him a bit of that dirt experience. So I try and see if we can get him in as many different disciplines as we can in race cars, and hopefully that sort of makes it easier for him to adapt to other things when he gets into something that's foreign.
Yeah, and I think it's a good path of what you're doing, and it should be taken note of, because we get asked so many times, don't we, do? Or you especially with the race school. You know, what do we do? What's the best path? I mean, constantly. You know.
Yeah, you've got to run up the front and do something you can afford to do properly.
That's exactly right.
There's no use doing a category that you haven't got a budget for, and you're going to do a bad job. You're better off stepping back, and if you can only afford to drive a Hyundai XL, but you can win at the front, go and do that. Someone will notice you and pick you up or give you a hand, and if you're doing well, someone will give you a hand somewhere.
That's right. And the key thing is, as we all know, unless you're in the right mousetrap, which is I call the best race car out there, you can be in the worst race car and be the best race driver, and you'll never ever get noticed.
Yes, yeah.
So you've got to be in the best car, the best team, to actually get the opportunity to actually show your wares, to move forward, and that is just cubic dollars at the end of the day. That is just pulling the handle on the poker machine.
Incredible. Well, good luck with everything, and with Aaron too.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks, Russ.
I know Aaron quite well. He presents well. He's he's enthusiastic. He's mechanical. You know, I mean, if there's anyone that's going to have a fair shot at it, he will. But
thank you.
You know,
the buzz is at the moment that being able to go out there and race, and be involved together as a family, as me being a part of his motor racing career, of doing all the car behind the scenes and him racing, is such a buzz for both of us.
It's like you and your dad.
Such a bone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I look at that and admire what you do there. And
thank
it's
you.
cool,
I see you guys in the pits. I go, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you're getting a buzz with it now with Nash too, aren't you?
Oh, I love it, mate.
Absolutely.
I don't even think about driving anymore, and we're just mucking around at an amateur level.
Yeah.
But it's just good fun to go and do that with you. As I said, mate, get your kids into racing, they won't be able to afford drugs.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right there, Paul. It actually takes you away from wanting to drive yourself, because you get so much more of a buzz out of watching your kids achieve and have fun.
And then being able to actually help, say something that they listen to.
Absolutely. It's just...
Don't listen to you about other things, but you make them go fast in the car, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's good to see. And, good luck with everything.
Thank
you. Appreciate you. And thanks for bringing the TA2 down too.
Thank you. It's a fantastic category, and as you've seen, the cars, they're a really good concept. They're very inexpensive to run, and the class is growing at a mere mile an hour.
Unbelievable.
It's just brilliant.
It's just a no-brainer to get into that. So thanks, dude. Now, don't go away. We've got a little bit of special coming up. Myself and Paul, we actually, after we did the Larry interview, which has been a huge success, we went down to Walkinshaw's, and we caught up with his pretty controversial character, Ryan Walkinshaw. So we caught up with him and talked about life and the race team and the ups and downs, and we didn't pull any punches on that one. We never do. So, so sit back and enjoy. It goes for a little bit, but all our episodes do. So see what you think, and hopefully you might get a different impression of Mr. Walkinshaw. So enjoy. Ryan Walkinshaw. Well, we're up on the mezzanine here, overlooking your new domain here, and very impressive. You've shown us through it.
It's pretty cool, isn't it, from up here?
It's cool. It shows you the scope of it, of what you achieved, and. I suppose out of one positive, unfortunately you might have to talk about a negative, and that's talking about racing cars and your race team as such. I know I spoke to you 12 months ago, and you're hoping with the new relationship with your new partners, things are on the up, but they've either flatlined or even dipped a little.
Yeah, I mean, I like to base things on facts and evidence, and we saw a significant increase in performance last season. Part of that was the new ZB, which had a much wider tuning window than we had previously, and our cars have traditionally been really fine to tune, as you know, Russell.
I know.
You've sat in one of them. You can scratch your head a fair bit and not know why. You can make a big change and nothing happens. You can make a small change and everything can happen. But we also invested in a lot of work that gone into designing new uprights and a new twin spring philosophy, which was brought to us by our new technical director, who we brought over from the UK, Carl Foe, and that was paying dividends last year. So we had a big performance increase. We had barely any top 10s the year before, which was the year after we lost the HRT contract. So that was a very tough year. Last year, first year of the new relationship with Andretti and United. A couple of new people in the engineering department, decent investment in parts. What was frustrating is that after getting, I think we ended up getting to about 30 top 10s, 6 podiums and a win, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. And then this year, obviously, we've not built on that, which is frustrating. There's a few reasons why that is. Some of them I can go into, some of them I can't. But one of the frustrating things is that just as we ended up getting our chassis to make sense last year with the twin spring and so on, and with that balance of the car, it was all taken away from us. So we just invested in new parts for the front suspension, new philosophy in how we're setting up the car. We're getting the twin springs to work really, really nicely, which is something we had struggled to do previously. And when I'm talking about getting it to work, you know what it's like. I'm talking fine margins in this. Just getting it to a little bit off compared to a 888, for example, makes a big difference here. And so that was really disappointing. And then trying to adapt to the linear spring and the way that the aero package works on the Commodore, which was designed to be a package that had a twin spring supporting it. We really struggled to get that, and we're by far not the only ones. I mean, if you speak to any of the engineers at 888, they'll tell you that they have thrown absolutely everything they can potentially think at it. They've had some huge swings at it, and I believe from if the pit lane scuttlebutt is to be believed that they've done a lot of development to try and get it to make sense, and they're only just now starting to get there. They've been inconsistent as well. So when those guys are struggling, considering how much knowledge they have of their aero platform because they designed it, and where they were in the pecking order of supercars, you've seen some teams like us and Gary Rogers and so on we have had some struggles this year. It's been very difficult. I don't want to get into a parity discussion because I've said my piece on it. And to be pretty honest,
we've done that.
Bored of it. And I've been open and honest with the fans about the parity issue. First of all, until I'm fighting with the top holding teams, I shouldn't be bitching and moaning about parity because I'm not even fighting with 888 yet. So I'm not going to start complaining why there may be any parity issues. But there is one fact which was brought to my attention about halfway through the season, which came from our engineering department, where we analysed our qualifying and racing performance and compared it against last season's. And we're on average at that point, which was a couple of months ago, so it might have changed a little bit. We're on average 5 places lower in qualifying and in race results. And one of those was a legitimate pass by us, which was Anton de Pasquale, who's got his shit together. He's doing a great job. Eris are doing a great job, and that was a legitimate jump. I'm not saying that the Tickford jump isn't legitimate either, but when you have those 3 Tickford cars that were well below us last year that have suddenly jumped us this year,
push you back down.
It's pushed us back down. So, and we're qualifying 11th, 12th, 13th, and so on, whereas previously we were sort of 8th, 9th, 10th. And so that's been the difference. But when you're constantly in the 10, you're fighting, you're in top 10 shootouts, the whole atmosphere and vibe in your own garage and the way that the people percept how you're performing that season dynamically changes when you're just outside the 10, which is where we are currently. And that's been the main frustration about this season, is that we've, from our own internal issues, we've not performed as well as we could have done. No one's hiding from that. We have struggled to get our car to perform the way we wanted to perform on the linear spring. That has hurt us. And all those new parts that we put on the car last year, they were all getting us up there and increasing our performance last season. It's all gone.
But this is the thing we spoke about on the show about, as Ryan mentioned 2 things straight away, like springs, dampers, uprights.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about it, haven't we? Development. And all that money out the drain.
Yeah.
And they're still messing around with uprights.
It's a cost saving that ends up costing you more.
One of the big arguments you get from teams is, all the cars are the same, then it'll make the driver market very expensive. But I think it's a lot cheaper to hire a good driver than spend $500,000 developing new uprights.
Well, this is a classic, man. This is exactly what we've been talking about. Yeah. Like, these uprights should have been controlled years ago.
Oh, 100%.
And I know how much, when I was racing with you, how many uprights that you went through back then. I mean, they were churning them out like butter. Like, it was unbelievable, that, and you're still doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're still doing it.
You know how much we develop. We do throw a lot of stuff at it, but and the problem is it's such a competitive industry. You're doing all the development work constantly. You're constantly putting new parts in your cars, but everyone else is doing the same thing as well. So when you're a little bit on the back foot and you're trying to gain that advantage, you know, everyone else is still working, you know, 100 hours a day to try and get that performance increase on their competitors, and you've got to work even more to try and get your parts in there in a faster time frame. You know, it's a constant battle.
Developing where you're racing. It's not like you got an R&D program off.
Exactly.
It's not back in the 80s and 90s where you're at the track for 15, 20 days a year on open tyres developing parts. You know, that's.
Well, why don't they do this, Ryan? Why don't they? I mean, you're a team owner. You know, why hasn't this been pulled up earlier? This has been going on for years.
I've been vocal about it. I've been vocal about it internally and externally that we should have a control upright. The only people who get excited about having freedoms to play with and that kind of stuff are the engineers and the race teams. There's not a single fan out there that gives a shit about what's going on with our uprights. Yeah? It's purely for engineers to get all excited and to have a competition between each other, and it adds zero value. And I'm a big believer in a few very fundamental things when it comes to motorsport. One is your biggest asset is your fan base, and your second biggest asset is the show that you put on to maintain that fan base. And I believe that any decision you make as a category should have those two things in mind: maintaining your current fan base and trying to make a show that's sexy and exciting to keep them there, but also to bring new people in. And having freedoms in areas of where there's pretty heavy engineering involved that most of the fans don't even understand or don't even want to understand adds zero value to those two principles. It's not making the racing more exciting, and the fans who are already interested don't care about it anyway. So why are we doing it?
Who's the roadblock? Who's the roadblock in getting this stuff through? What is the roadblock? Because you can't be the only one that's not thinking that. They want to get these components through to make the process cheaper.
I mean, you've got a few. I got to word this very carefully. So you've got the commission. Yeah, but if I want longevity in my career, I do. If you've got the commission, which I think has got some very, very good attributes, and I think it's done a lot of good work. Yeah. But I still fundamentally believe that that in all sport, a benevolent dictatorship is more beneficial to a democracy any day of the week. And we've seen that for a lot of motorsports. We've seen it in NFL. We've seen it in a vast array of different sporting categories. And so what you end up can sometimes happen when you have something like we have in the structure with the board and the commission, whilst it has a lot of advantages as well, but just purely discussing the potential negatives, is that you have people who have ambitions and have self-interest in those situations, even if it's subconscious, which sometimes steers the discussion away from what is potentially the most logical, rational, reasonable and economical decision that could be made. The other issue is that we have so much invested already in the current processes we have, that any changes cost money. Even a cost saving initially will cost money, because you're either wiping off inventory or you're going to have to make someone redundant, which is going to have a cash flow impact on you anyway, and all these different mechanisms in place. And because no team is doing it easy out there, we're all in a position where at best you're breaking even, but at worst there's lots of teams that are losing a lot of money. You don't really want to put them in a position where they need to wipe away a bunch of their parts, or have to go and buy new parts, or have to make people redundant.
But they're doing that anyway.
They're doing it anyway.
Through development, so that
absolutely
just doesn't hold water.
There's an irrational side of this discussion, which for some reason isn't brought up, in my opinion, as much. Whereas sometimes you just kind of need to get everyone to sit down in a room and just say, one person to say, we're doing this, and we're just going to completely get rid of it.
Parity change didn't go through the commission, it just got done.
Right, this is what you're doing.
That's what you're doing, and I think you've seen a bit of that. And to me, when you look at stuff go through the commission and to the board, it just gets this bureaucratic process, and even if you don't like it and don't want to disagree with it, you can certainly stall it for a while.
Yeah, you can stall it for a while, but you've also got people on there, and I'm not going to say any names here, but people who've been...
well, we know who's on there, so...
Oh yeah, but people who have been on there previously and stuff, and also, you know who's on there, obviously. But you also get it, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
And if an injustice has happened to you in the past, when you've been going through a process and you've come up and tried to come up with a solution which has been smashed at the commission level, and then when eventually everyone suddenly wants to make that change, it's quite reasonable for you to sit there and say, I wanted to do this fucking 2 years ago, and you guys have made me waste a fortune of my money doing this because you guys didn't want to make the change, and now you guys want to do it. Now that I've geared up to be able to get to the current processes, well, screw you, why should I do that? So there is always going to be that little bit of human and political element in these kind of structures, which will slow things down, open up avenues for self-interest, open up avenues for the ability to manipulate certain scenarios to benefit yourself or to benefit one party or one manufacturer more than another. I'm not saying this happens a lot. You're asking about the negatives, right? I can sit here and say there's a huge amount of positives with the structure that we have in the commission and the board, because actually, all in all, they've done a good job. Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of making a pretty exciting product, but I think we've also made a lot of mistakes along the way as well.
Yeah.
The aero issue is one of them, which I think has been a very damaging. It's been damaging for the brand, it's been damaging for teams, it's cost us all a fortune.
Yeah.
It's pointed out a lot of issues we have with that system and structure as well, which hopefully will get resolved. That's not my job to do.
The way it's been relayed to the public?
That's the biggest issue, is the fans. I believe it's unfair to expect fans who haven't got an education in engineering and design and aerodynamics and CFD and so on, to try and get them to understand something which even our top engineers find complicated. I mean, this is complicated for people who understand it in a great amount of detail. Yeah. And then you're expecting people who aren't educated on this topic to just suddenly pick it up as if they understand it to the same level we do. And I think that's been something which has frustrated a lot of people.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Again, it goes back to my two key pillars. I think we've in this whole scenario we've had this year with parity, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking on it.
Yeah.
We've pissed off existing fans, and we've put ourselves in a position where the racing has been less exciting and damaged the product, and that's going to make it less appealing for new fans. So there's two important aspects of a sport have been potentially damaged by what could have been a better managed process,
absolutely.
more transparent process, absolutely right, and one that, to be honest, should have been rectified a lot earlier on in the season.
Because I look around, dude. I look around what you've shown us around what you've built here. I mean, the industry. I mean, it is. You've built an industry here, basically, and completely remodeled and reconfigured HSV into now what it is now, to the Walkinshaw Automotive Group. Surely some of this, I mean, you're dealing with here with $5 components. You're dealing with all these components, and surely to me, the first thing I'd be doing if I was part of the supercar structure is coming here and going, well, can we take some modelling out of this on how you go about making things cost efficient, right? And modelling that into supercars, because that's what it's about from now on, is to be cost efficient. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that. I remember this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where we had a big meeting about how to try and make supercars more cost efficient, and I offered. I said, we've got all this buying power that we're working with suppliers on, and we're buying components that could be
you got the systems and processes.
Exactly right. That could be implanted into the current supercars, and I'm happily donate you some of my buying power and the cost benefits on that, just to help everyone out. And nothing ever happened. And one thing I've realised, and this isn't just supercars. I mean, I used to be. We used to own a rugby club, a Premiership rugby club in the UK, one of the leading rugby clubs called Gloucester Rugby. Yeah. I was a chairman on that business, and also a non-exec director on the board of Premiership Rugby. And the same issue is there as well, because you can come up with ideas which, again, make complete rational, logical sense. But when you have structures and systems like you have in a lot of these different sporting categories, unless you go and drive that yourself, you can offer it, but there's not people who are essentially there just grabbing onto every single idea and rolling with it.
Someone's got to pick the ball up.
Yeah, you kind of got to punch your way through. Yeah. And that's a benefit and a disadvantage sometimes, because you also have people who take advantage of that. And again, not naming any names, but there's some people in supercars who have used that to their benefit. And there's a lot of team owners like myself who, motorsport's not my day job. My day job is all of this. Yeah. And there's a couple of other team owners like that. And so you do have some team owners that are in a position where they can spend their entire day constantly pushing an agenda.
And night.
And nights, yeah, some don't sleep either. And so sometimes, if you want to get something done, you've got to go put that work in, and that's just the way the system works. But that's also negative, because it allows other people to take advantage of it by just having more time in their day to focus on something and to just push things through, because, maybe there could be some new systems which would make a little bit more sense. And I've been vocal about this internally and externally.
Okay, I want to divert a little bit and make this more, because this is about you, right, as well, because and keeping on obviously the racing, and there's been some comments come out recently that maybe that that you're not totally committed to the racing, and it's timely that we come off of this, because you're talking about your commitment is two businesses, race team being one, you're remanufacturing the other. I don't see it that way. I've known you for a long time, so this is what I want. I think this is your chance to clear this up. Like, as far as your commitment to motorsport and your performance of late, that you do take it to heart. That it's not you don't just walk away from it and go, oh well, that was a bad weekend.
Yeah. So you're talking about James's comments, which not
so much. I think this is a general perception as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think there's a perception with some of the public that you got the rich kid tag.
Yeah, I'm always going to get that.
Say? Of course you are.
You probably had a bit of that too, right?
Yeah. I'm on mid-50s and I still get it.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point, Paul.
Yeah.
You see where I'm sort of going with this? Because there's no use hiding from it. I mean, at the end of the day, this, whenever we've had interviews like this on the show, it's shown the other side of someone.
Yeah.
And I know you, but a lot of people don't.
No, sure.
So you've got that tag.
Yeah.
He's not scared of working.
No.
I don't like pushing my own boat too much publicly either. I don't like boasting too much. Everyone always says that this is Australia's best kept manufacturing secret, and it's such a great demonstration of what we're still capable of doing over here, but we don't talk about it enough. And so when you're talking about myself personally, we've actually got 6 different businesses that I run. The automotive side is just one of them, which is up from 3 when I originally took over from my dad. We're probably going to be starting a 7th in Q1 next year, which will be a blockchain-based business, and these things all take up a huge amount of my time. The thing with sport in general is that it's always going to pull you away from everything else more than anything else that you have, because I can sit here and I can plan with a relative degree of accuracy what's going to be going on in this business at minimum 6 months in advance, but probably 12 months in advance with a relatively decent degree of confidence. And we've got enough modelling to be able to understand historically different things and how they're going to impact this business. With motorsport, because it's something which is constantly evolving, you've constantly got to try and be on the front foot, and you've got people who are, as you say, giving it their all every single day of the week. It's naturally going to be something that pulls your time away a little bit more than anything else. So my time is always going to have to be balanced between everything, which is fine, but there's also plenty of other team owners that do that, not just in supercars, but all over the world. There's plenty of other team owners in other sports, not just motorsport, that actually do the same thing.
You look at Betty, she's got Barry.
Yeah.
So you need to find a Barry.
Yeah, but at the moment we've got Matt Nielsen and Bruce Stewart who are running those co-principal roles. We had Adrian Burgess previously. I think that's
your problem.
Yeah.
Co-principal. Who's the bloke?
Yeah.
You walk in Erebus, that's the bloke.
Yeah. We've discussed that, but there's positives and negatives from that model, and we're always evaluating these sort of things.
Yeah.
But Roger Penske isn't spending 10 hours of his day focusing on the race team in Australia. He's got a Cindric, and then locally he's got a Ryan Story.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can have this model that works. When it comes to passion and commitment, you've been on the right side and the wrong side of my passion several times, mate. So you know what I'm like, and you know how much I care about this.
Well, you're obviously not a deal, because you don't build something like this if you're a deal.
I don't know what a deal means. It must be an Aussie colloquial.
A
dickhead.
Basically, because you don't build
There's a few people that still call me that, even seeing this, but it's fine.
But obviously not. But like you said, you can't dedicate everything. No. If you dedicate everything towards racing, this is going to suffer.
Absolutely, and I've got to look after my family, and I've got to build on what my dad built on. I've got to try and evolve that, and we've grown about 300% in the last 4 years, which is pretty amazing in a market that's been in decline. And I've got ambitions to to continue that kind of growth. Yeah. And we're in a position where we've got a pretty unique selling point that not anyone else in the market can really do without having to invest a huge amount of money that it probably wouldn't make sense. And so constantly evolving that is critical. And that's because my top priority in anything in life is to look after my family, look after my mum and my brother, because that's what my dad always told me to do, especially when he was sick. And then looking after my future kids when I'm I've actually got some time to have some. Right?
Yeah.
And
so is that the drama with the race team side of it then? Because I mean, we spent some time with Tim Jackson. Tim's been with you for over a decade now.
He has,
Cluey guy, right on it, and been an integral part of all of this. Is that what the race team needs? Do you need a Tim Jackson?
I think we still like to see our Matt and Bruce go, because I think they've done some really, really good work. I think that in the background of all of this, and what people are forgetting is that there's two aspects to a supercars team. There's the on-track performance, and they're related, right? They're not mutually exclusive. And you've got the business side of it. And so, in the last 2 years, we've gone from a team that was losing money to a team that this year would have broken even for the first time in a long time. Which in supercars, I reckon that it's maybe us and 888 that would have had that in our plans.
The Mega.
Mega has damaged that.
Yep.
Not saying it's over. We've got to go and fight tooth and nail to go and get some partners on board now, and it's going to be a challenge. But up until that point, you know, we were in a really, really good position. I'd say that commercially we're one of the best teams, best presented. We do the most work with our sponsors of any other team in supercars. I'm more than happy to say that. If anyone wants to counter me on it, I'm confident I can give them a pretty good argument.
People, you feel they're doing the job. So
on the business side of things, we're running a good racing business. But performance side of things is different, and there's a few things that equate to performance of a race team, right? If you're trying to be simplistic, and I like to keep things simple so I can understand them.
Good.
And so you've got drivers and engineers. They're the guys that influence the speed of the car. I'm not influencing the speed of the car. I'll probably do more damage than good if I try and do that. I understand engineering, but not to the degree I'm going to be able to add a huge amount of value there, and I don't pretend that. And to be honest, I've also got a philosophy that if I'm the smartest guy in the room, when I'm in an executive meeting on a topic, I've got the wrong person in the role that I'm talking about, because I should be hiring people who are smarter than me in different roles to be able to get a better result. It's a very simple philosophy that people like Elon Musk have always talk about. Never be the smartest guy in any room. And so you're in a position where there's a few things that we can change. One of those things is engineers, one of those things is drivers. Now, we've already made it very clear that one of the plans that we had when Andretti and United came on board, and a plan that I had with them, that we developed with them, was to look at a new driver lineup going forward. Now, that was either going to be a new lead driver with a JC taking a step back to a second car and becoming that sort of older head in the driver lineup, and whether they'd be willing to do that, or that was going to be a new driver with a Scott Pye, who stepping up to that role as well. Or is going to be an entirely new driver lineup. Now we're confident with one driver, our new lead driver, that we're going to bring into the team. We're confident that that's going to be something that happens. And then we're still making decisions about that second driver. Yep. There's still some debate around that. And one of those people we're looking at is obviously Scott, but we're looking at other drivers both nationally and internationally. Right. And so that's one first big important thing we need to do. We need a bit of a driver refresh, at least for one driver, in our opinion. And the second thing is engineering. Carl Foe coming on board. I mean, anyone you speak to in supercars on the engineering side who knows Carl will say that he's a very, very talented, successful, bright engineer. But we're not giving him the time to be able to focus on what he needs to do to develop the car, if I'm honest. We need to give him more resource underneath him for him to be able to do what he's good at, which is just focusing 100% on go faster bits for a race car, not sitting there, managing a car, doing bits and pieces over here, doing bits and pieces, being pulled over to go and spend a huge amount of time at the beginning of the season on our engines, because suddenly there was an engine change for this year that wasn't really in the plans, and next thing you know, for a cost save, you end up spending a month focusing all your efforts on making sure that the engines are going to be compliant with the regulations. So all sorts of stuff like that slows us down. So investing in new resource underneath Carl is also a key focus of ours going into next season.
Could I ask you something on a personal note? And it's something that we've spoken about on our show quite often, is that we believe that as far as team managers or team principals go, ex-racers, right, make the best in that position, don't you think? Because you got a feel of it. It's a bit like you Paul, with
you understand
what you're doing now with young guys, and you look at all great teams, race teams have always had normally someone that's been in that position, raced before. You
take Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti, and Tom was that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, you took over for that, but you didn't have that race experience. You had the business experience, but not the race experience.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Has that been difficult because you've had to delegate more to other people that you're hoping is going to have that experience?
Yeah.
But you can't judge that as well. You're because you're saying about putting the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
Well, then you're just taking a swing, and I hope he is the smartest man, because you're not quite sure.
And we've taken some swings like that before, but still people on paper who you would have thought would have been able to do it. I mean, these weren't just blindfolded swings in the dark. These were calculated, well assessed decisions that we were making that didn't pay off. Now, there's more complexity to this than just saying, why didn't Adrian Burgess turn us into a championship-winning team again? In fairness to Adrian, there was other things going on at that time which hampered his ability to do that. And
but it makes it difficult though, because Tom would have he'd identify an idiot though, wouldn't he? And he'd go, "You're an idiot, you're gone."
Yeah, and at the end, it's all about people, right? Everything I'm doing here, everything you're doing in a race team, it's all about the human beings. Business is simple. Business is actually a very, very simple thing. It's the human beings that are hard. That's the difficult part of business. And when you add a sporting environment, a competitive sporting environment around that, it almost it almost exaggerates the complexity with human beings that you're having to go through, because you end up making decisions that aren't always rational. You make decisions because you're passionate and you're making some of those emotional ones, and sometimes you get those right, sometimes you get them wrong. And so finding that balance is important.
That's very true, because how many times have we seen really smart businessmen get into motorsport or get into sports and make the dumbest decisions you've ever seen in your life?
100%.
Well, it's no different in horse racing or sailing.
It's like it basically takes over from logic.
Exactly, it does. Yeah. You end up thinking with your heart instead of thinking with your brain sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes that pays off. And you're like a hero when it does.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it doesn't.
But that's probably luck.
Yeah, exactly.
More
to a certain degree, and whatever anyone says, there's always an element of luck. It's always going to come into everything you do.
Are you in for the long haul with the racing? Are you staying in, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've fucking gone this far. Come on. Just when I feel like we're going to be getting things right. And
because the reason why I ask that, because your environment's changed. You've changed from when you took over the reins at HSV. And you could see a different correlation between, the racing and your road car division.
Yeah.
You had to be successful on the track because that sold you more HSVs.
Yeah, they're right. There was a connection there, which doesn't exist anymore.
That connection isn't there now.
No.
I mean, winning on the racetrack isn't going to sell you more Dodge Ram trucks.
No.
So as a business model, are you wavering? Well, if we didn't race anymore, it wouldn't be a big deal.
I'm passionate about it, and my family's a racing family, so we want to be doing racing in something. At the end of the day, it's always going to come down to the fact that if it's going to cost us $2-3 million to go racing, as much as we all love racing, that's something we're probably not going to do, right? And I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be making that kind of decision pretty soon in supercars, unless we get some significant changes in a few significant areas. And I know that supercars are working really hard on that, and Sean Seamer, in my opinion, is doing a really, really good job of understanding the team concerns and trying to put that at the forefront of his decision making at the top of supercars, and that's a refreshing change, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, if something dramatic happens, then you're always going to be looking at and evaluating the cost benefit of going racing. But we're working pretty hard.
I think Roland Day would say the same thing.
Yeah, he would. He would. Roland's no Mark. He's not going to be sitting there saying, my passion for racing and supercars is worth $2 million a year at a loss. He's going to be sitting there saying, probably going to be a lot less than that, especially considering how well he's done as a business, on the business side of racing for so long. He'll close up shop well before that. But at the moment, our aim is to get a business which is breaking even. We had that this year. Unfortunately, it's been massively damaged by the scenario with Mega, which, just to clear the air as well, we did a huge amount of due diligence on Mega. We had ability to look at their accounts as of as close as June before they closed down in August, and they were solvent, had a lot of cash in the business. They were making enough cash that they were going out and buying lots of other different companies, which you don't do unless you've got cash to be able to do it.
Where'd the cash come from?
Oh, it was coming from investors. They were raising an investment group. And so if you
that's different than making money.
They were making money. They were making.
The fact that they still owed Tickford money, and surely must have put a few.
Absolutely, it did, and that's why we put some pretty strong wording in our contract that we wanted access, and we had some pretty strong guarantees in that place as well. Unfortunately, guarantees in that sort of scenario don't mean anything when you go into receivership, right? Everything disappears, doesn't matter.
But at the end of the day, your longevity in the sport is okay. Sponsorship comes and goes, and that's one of the pitfalls of business. But as far as you staying in the sport, it's going to come down to Supercars decisions in the next 12, 24 months.
There are some things that we want to see in order to, and that's not just for myself, it's from Michael and Zach. There are some significant things that we want to see in Supercars going forward, and fortunately I believe a lot of these things are being worked on. And I'll give you a couple of examples. The new TV deal is going to be critical to Supercars because fundamentally getting more free-to-air time is important. It's important for the fans, it's important for the teams to drive more value out of sponsors.
Of course it is.
We've been lucky enough to be running our commercial department flat out to be able to continue to deliver a result which is similar to what we had previously, but a lot of teams haven't. And regardless of how well our team's been doing on the commercial side of things, I need to ensure that I've got people to compete against. So I need to be thinking about everyone else on pit lane as well in these sort of decisions. It's critical. There's no point.
Of course it is.
There's no point being the only guys on track. Your sport's dead. So getting a new TV deal whereby there is a new free-to-air component, I think is something that I'd really like to see. Even if it's one of the races on a weekend, something to be able to ensure that we have a consistent program that's on TV, on free-to-air, and on Foxtel every few weeks, so we don't end up disappearing for such a long period of time throughout the year, and everyone forgets about us. It's important to stay relevant and in the eyes of your
fans
customers.
have lost the habit of watching, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a habit. That's exactly the best way of putting it. It's a habit.
Yeah.
You get in the habit of sitting down on a Sunday with your beer in front of your TV and watching your Supercars. And so bringing that back, I think, is really, really important. The cost-saving measures that are in place, some of them I think are really good. Some of them I think may be good, but it's going to cost you so much to get there. It's going to take you 10 years to get back to where you are now. So okay, fine. You should still be making those sort of decisions, but on the whole, who really gives a shit? Let's focus on the big ones, which are going to give us cost savings immediately, because that's when the time frame that teams have to turn things around isn't 10 years. We've got to make sure that in the next 12 to 18 months, we've got a category where the teams are going to be financially viable. Otherwise, teams are going to start dropping out, and they've already seen a lot of teams drop out. And there's some big teams that are looking at their options, and that's not a good position to be in. We've got to have an ability for the current teams in the category to have a model which makes sense for them to stay in. There's always going to be an element of risk. Of course. You're always going to have a year where you screw up and don't get a major sponsor at the number you want, and you're going to lose a bit of money. But that's your job. You fucking work harder and get your sponsors on board. That's just the standard thing. It's the risk you take of being in the sport.
Got your clock on the block.
The base model needs to be more economical, and it's not just for the current teams. It's also for new teams coming into the category. We shouldn't be begging teams from Super 2 to jump in. It should be an easy enough step that for a little bit more risk, a little bit more hard work, a Super 2 team can jump up. Or an international team shouldn't have to spend $6-7 million to enter the category. They should be able to find a way that the barriers to entry are massively lowered, so that even when someone eventually retires or a team makes some mistakes and folds, which will inevitably happen, you've got a conveyor belt of other potential team owners, backed up, ready to come in. That's what British Touring Cars has, and they're doing a very, very good job of that. It's cheap to get in, and they have turnover of teams, but on the whole,
it's actually a really good point, isn't it?
It's pretty cheap.
It's actually a really good point to have. They're too focused on the teams that are in there. They're not focusing. It's actually a really good point.
I think they are.
No, but they're not focusing on getting new ones in there, Paul. They're just so.
Well, you've got to get the business model right for them to come in there.
That's
you can't do it by advertising.
No. But you always said, you're an advocate bringing on young drivers. If it was more viable, you'd get in there and start up a team for young drivers.
100%
but at the moment, you wouldn't do it.
There's two things why I wouldn't go supercar racing again, and that's one of them is Supercars controls everything in the sport. Then we give the judicial process to CAMS, which can tarnish our brand so much. What other sport in the world do you give that away? You imagine the AFL doing that?
NASCAR don't do
we
that.
Control everything, but we'll let some other people come in and blow the whistle. NASCAR don't do that.
I couldn't agree more with you on that.
And they're not capable and don't have the brains about going racing to do that job properly, and it's clearly obvious. Clearly obvious. Now that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. But to have a succession...
What was the second thing? Sorry.
Yeah, what was the second?
What was the second thing? He said there's 2 reasons why you wouldn't go back into supercars. That was
the
the first
costs.
one.
The costs.
The costs.
Yeah, costs.
The costs.
Of course.
It's expensive, really, very expensive category.
It's expensive.
And you're not giving your Super 2 teams incentive to come up, are you?
No, you'd really want to have the want and the means to do it without any commercial backing to do that.
Yeah.
So commercially, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so at the end of the day, the category starts pulling their act together because the supercars brand is very strong, isn't
Absolutely.
it? As a brand, it's massively
And we've got some great people working in supercars in a lot of those positions. We've got some really good people there that when, you know, with the right direction, and I believe Sean can do that. I really do. I've got a lot of faith in Sean. I think we can make a lot of really positive changes, but I also want to see those changes occur because at some point, even though 2 years down the track and the teams are still losing money, you know, people are going to. It doesn't matter what supercars try and do, everyone's going to lose faith, and so they need to have a little bit. Everyone's being sold on the dream. Now we've got to go and make it happen. It's really important. And then the second thing I really want to see is a change whereby we rip out a lot of the complex nonsense on these race cars. You're talking about the uprights, you spoke about it earlier. No fan gives a crap about the uprights on our cars. Why do we have, you know, 3 or 4 different damper suppliers to the category? I love the fact we're going to one damper supplier. It's going to make things simpler, more cost effective. It's going to probably allow us to lose at least 1 head, which is important because that's your main cost of going of
if you do all that, all those guys will get jobs with other teams. They'll still be employed.
Exactly. And that's important, but I think we should go a step further. We spoke about the aero stuff. Just rip all the fancy crap off the cars. Get rid of all the downforce. Just go properly racing again. Make them simple. Make the drivers have a car.
Make the drivers earn their money.
Make them earn their money. Exactly. They earn enough anyway. Let's make it harder for them. And I'm not trying to discredit how hard it is to be a racing driver, but you know, I want to see cars that are hard to drive, that people make mistakes, where you know you're actually fighting closely with each other. I think we've still got good racing considering.
Yeah.
Last question.
Sure.
Last question. If supercars get their act together, finally sort out this chassis so you can actually fit different bodies on the chassis, which they should have done right from the word go, meaning the Mustang, and not making it look like some sort of mongrel looking thing.
Yeah.
That car that's right below us, the Camaro, is there any sort of possibility of seeing it?
So short answer is certainly not in the foreseeable future.
Yep.
You mentioned we were talking about the difficulties with the commission of these structures.
Yep.
That's a prime example. Every single person who looked at this from just a purely logical perspective said, why the hell don't we just lower the roll hoop, and it's going to make the current Mustang fit properly, and it's going to open up the doors to a vast number of other products that manufacturers actually want to race. Most manufacturers have got zero interest in spending their marketing budget trying to race 4-door sedans, which are just family cars, Uber cars, taxis, which are all, you know, driven by mileage and safety and all that sort of thing. They're not racing cars anymore, and that will not change in the future. You know, and it's a declining market, right? And so, but all these manufacturers, they've got marketing budgets to make, to put into programs to sell cars which are seen as performance cars, like Camaros and Mustangs, and that opens up a huge array of other body shapes that actually suit supercars and suit the interests of those companies for their marketing purposes. But then we go down the route of trying to get that approved. They're already too far along with the Mustang, and even though we spoke to the 2 teams working on the Mustang, they all said, yeah, this is great, but we're never going to get it done, and we're already, you know, far down this. I'm like, yeah, but stop it, let's do it properly. And then you ended up having things like saying about self-interest, people who didn't want to do it because they may not have wanted the Mustang in, or people who did it because it was going to be too hard, or they weren't comfortable that we were going to be able to get a balance on having a body shape that had a lower roof height than other ones. But these are all things we can manage, and it's not really excuses. It just means that no one really wanted it to happen, no one could really be bothered doing the work, and we couldn't get it approved. And now we're paying for it. Like fundamentally, we are paying for it. And so we've ended up having this huge issue with this Mustang, which has damaged the brand and cost way more than it would have cost to have just done the change or sent the cars and then we missed out on the Camaro because of the same issues fundamentally. What are we doing as a team? I've been open and honest. We are looking at new manufacturers. I personally don't like the model that we have, and this is no disrespect to Roland and AAA because they've done a lot of good work on that. There's some things we're not happy with, there's some things we're happy with, but on the whole, they've done a pretty good job. And
meaning the ZB.
The being homologation team.
Yeah.
But
which you guys were for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't mind it then.
But but from their perspective, if they hadn't done that, the ZB wouldn't have been in the category, and Holden would have left. So well done on Roland and his team actually, putting their balls on the line and getting that done. Because if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't be having this discussion at all because we probably all would have been in Ultimates. And so, but fundamentally, from a pure business perspective, going and being in a position where you have a team that's homologating parts with limited input from what the other teams want. And I'll use an example. The aero change that we've had recently in New Zealand. Okay, great. From their perspective and all the work that they've done behind the scenes and all their CFD and so on, and from what their drivers and their engineers are trying to get out of their car to fix some of the faults that they have in their setup.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily translate across to our issues. We may have issues in completely different areas. Our drivers may be looking for something completely different than their drivers are in their driving style and so on. So a benefit on a change in the aero that suits them doesn't necessarily help us. In fact, it may make it worse in some scenarios. So not having control of that is really, really difficult. Not being able to have access to all the CFD work that Roland and his team do before they ever give us a part to even touch and feel, let alone go and actually put on a track and understand how it's going to work, or try and put into our CFD models, means they're always going to have an advantage over us on understanding what their aero platform is going to be doing to their chassis, and they can then put that into
it's a time
developing
advantage
parts.
and a knowledge advantage.
Correct. It's exactly, it's both. And so it's a pretty important strategic decision for us to migrate away, and this may be in 2021 or 2022 or 3, we don't know yet, but to migrate away from and do our own thing is really, really
have
important.
control of your own destiny as far as the homologation process.
We have to, because I know you talk about being competitive. You can guarantee that it's going to be very hard to be consistently competitive against a team that has any advantage over you. And so you have to at least be playing with the same tools. Otherwise, you're going to struggle, and that's an important aspect of our strategy as well.
Ryan, it has been very interesting. Thanks for giving us the keys.
That's all right.
Keys to the place.
Thanks for coming over and having a look.
And well done for what you've done, and all these people here, especially all the people who are walking around the factory that still got jobs. Number one, and the industry in general.
We're going to get a deal on a caravan?
I already gave him the deal on a Camaro, so
he wants a caravan. He's into it. No, really, really impressive, and thanks for showing us around. This is and the insight to you as well, because like I said, it's impressive.
Well, I've been a fan of the show. I love what you guys are doing. It's nice to have an independent,
that's what we are.
An independent duo like yourselves, looking and evaluating and giving a no bullshit approach to everything going on in motorsport. So keep it up. We appreciate it, and I do especially.
Thanks, guys.
So thanks.
Good luck.
Cheers,
buddy. It was good. It was good catching up with Ryan, because sort of people don't know how to take Ryan Walkinshaw, do they? Some people think he's just.
Well, they don't really know him.
No, they don't. No, he does fly under the radar a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because Roland's always out there, and sort of pretty well known and pretty outspoken, but he's sort of in the background a bit.
Yeah, he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on, but it was good too to see him get a result.
Yeah, for sure.
On the weekend.
Yeah,
so
it was pretty timely that we did that sit down with him. I still don't think I'm on the on his boat with having someone at the helm.
You got to have a skipper, mate. You got to have someone with a hand on the tiller.
Yeah, I don't think they're there yet. I think that's what's missing. I think that's the only thing that's missing. But
it's a hard position to fill. If I had to find someone to run a race team for me, I don't know where I'd start looking.
Yeah, because you need a hard ass too.
And
you need someone
knowledge.
that's going to go in and fight. You know, so. And that's what. Let's face it. Some of the best teammates. That's what they do.
It's not an easy fix for him, but
they're not.
Trying.
They're not falling off trees.
No.
You don't see him advertising the classifieds, do you? So, but it was good to catch up with him. And also next week we're going to be putting up a walk through the new conversion or remanufacturing
manufacturing facility.
Yep, and this is a bloke. Do not miss that, because we went from start to finish with Tim Jackson, who runs that side of it, and Ryan Walkinshaw took us through all through the Camaros, the Dodge Rams, the Silverados. It is mind-blowing, that facility. So we did a full walkthrough. So we've got that going up next Friday. So do not miss that. And also, we track tested the Camaro. What a weapon. What a weapon. Dude loved it.
What a hot rod.
Dude was on. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you what time it did, but a very fast time here at Norwell. So that was a blowout. So special feature on that one, so do not miss that one as well, and you'll really enjoy it. If you're a car nut, you'll love it as well. Dude, time for your life message, and I'll tell you what, there's a few people that might want to hear about a life message from you.
Ready?
This week? Oh, ready, go.
Just because something is true,
yep,
doesn't mean it isn't deceptive.
Not pointed at all? No? No? Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It is true though, isn't it? A little bit of smoke and mirrors. A little bit of deception. A little bit of deception. That's good. I know this has been a marathon show, but it's been good though. There's been plenty to cover off. And we're on the GC600. And guess what?
We're back.
We're back.
Team Enforcer and the Dude.
Boom. Yes.
Is that what your truck's got?
That's my truck, yep.
Oh, that looks pretty
Tony
good.
Longhurst actually has stumped up a few bucks for me to make the field. So thanks to Boatworks and Tony Longhurst. I might even run his number too, 25.
The 25?
Yeah, hey, just be careful. I know what happened when we ran last time at Winton with Tony Longhurst. Was his car 25?
Yeah, he was 25.
He was 25, yeah.
25.
None of that gear, all right? Just leave me alone, all right? So, yep, Boatworks is on. So, good Queensland company. And, yeah, it's going to be great. So,
GC600 will be on track.
Yep, so everyone...
Come down and see us.
Come down and see us. And
Russ will be kissing babies and signing posters all weekend.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. I can't, I ran Sydney about, a year ago?
Yeah, it was.
Just when the little debacle happened between... all the governing bodies. Luckily they saw sense and got them back on, because they know this is a crowd favourite, the Stadium Super Truck, so it's going to be good. Good to see Robbie Gordon again too, and it's going to be a blast. Yeah, so we've got to work together. We've got to get it.
He'd be happy, mate. He doesn't have to deal with cams now.
Oh yeah, true.
We'll tell him there's a new sanctioning body.
There's a new sanctioning body. You won't even know.
Motorsport Australia, mate. We've got rid of them for you.
Yeah, Cams is going to go. Oh really? That'd be great. Yeah, that's going to be good. So yeah, we've got to team up. I want to get a podium, dude. So you're going to help me out. We're going to work together.
Mate, I'll always help you out, you know that.
Get her up the front. Yeah. So yeah, there's going to be a blast, guys. So,
but don't manipulate the results, mate.
I won't. I won't back anyone up, mate.
No.
I'm pedal to the metal, mate. No backing up. All right. It's been good, dude. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Russ.
See you guys. See you next time round. And don't forget the Walkinshaw factory walkthrough next Friday night. So we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.